Lions fans, welcome to the Detroit Lions podcast, episode 472. This is the mock draft, Detroit Lions NFL mock draft 2.0, trades, everything's involved. It's our consensus run. It's also the official podcast for Reddit. I'm your dashing host, Chris. With me are two of the most elegant and sexy co-hosts on the face of the earth. First, Jeff Risdon and the one and only Michael Gray. How is everybody doing today?
Good, man.
We're happy to be here. It's draft week.
Riz, I didn't notice. Did you just put your suitcase behind you?
I did.
Yeah, the DLP suitcase.
What a visual aid.
That thing's a sweet. I love it. I take it with me every time I go now. I've even gotten comments.
It's great. I spent this past weekend in Pittsburgh, and I took it with me, and I was rolling through the lobby one morning, and there was a guy who was like another basketball dad, and he's like, I know who you guys are. I'm like, yes, you do.
Good stuff. For anyone who doesn't know, head on over to DetroitLionsPodcast.com/store. You can get yours right there. Great looking bag. All right, we'll get through this, and it's cabin approved, so it's you can take it. It's exactly the maximum size you can bring in every cabin in an airplane, so you get your most junk in there that you can. All right, we're going to talk and walk through the 2023 NFL Draft Round 1. We'll explain who we believe the teams are going to pick, why, who's going to pick what, by whom, when, where, how, all that other stuff, and we've opened the rules up. We are going to allow trades this time. Now, guys, I'm just going to tell you on the trades thing. Right? If you do one of those things where we trade back 82 times and get 156 picks in the second round, I'm going to get a ticket. I'm going to fly to your house. I'm going to pee on your mattress. End of story. So just don't even get silly like that. Okay. Real stuff here. Got a good time. Got a lot of fun stuff going on. Are you guys ready to go?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's kick this off and break it down.
Dan Howard, there you go. Dan wants one of those. It's a sweet piece of luggage. I don't know. It's more than luggage. All right. I want to give everyone a big welcome and invite to the 8th annual draft party. 8 years in a row. We will do the draft party live. This year we will have Ash Thompson and Michael Gray on day one. You excited about that, Mike?
I am, man. That's going to be a weird one to watch.
It is.
We could be completely pulling our hair out by pick 4.
This is the strangest of all 8 drafts. This is the strangest one that I can remember as far as trying to figure out what in the heck is going on. And it's not just the Lions.
Sure. No, it's everybody, and it's a great opportunity tonight for us all to look really stupid in about 2 days' time with any of these picks because nobody knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, and that's the fun. Like I've done this for a living for a long time, and I have embraced the fact that I don't know what's going to happen. I kind of like it. I'm excited. Like there have been years when I knew I don't want to say half the picks, but several picks, including Lions picks,
Sure.
pretty much every year of the Bob Quinn era. We all knew who they were going to be picking ahead of time.
So did everybody else, unfortunately.
Yes. Yeah. And like we literally knew Jared Davis before we got to the combine. That's how early they had decided on him, and how loose lips they were that sank those ships. I kind of like it. Like there's 4 or 5 different scenarios just for the Lions that I can see playing out, and some of that depends on what's going to happen ahead of them, and we don't know what's going to happen ahead of them, and it makes it fun.
100%.
Makes my job more arduous, but also more fun.
Yeah. Ooh, Hank's Tank shirt showed up there. Heck, that DetroitLionsPodcast.com store is just everywhere. It's beautiful. All right, let's get into this. First round, first pick overall, Carolina. You guys and gals can follow along on the ticker at the bottom. I'll rehash what we've picked so far. We're going to get right into this, though. No, we're not going to get into this. We have to talk about one breaking piece of news because a few people under a rock somewhere in Denmark haven't heard that Aaron Rodgers was traded. Risdon, how did you act to broker that trade this fine day?
I made it happen because I published my what I would do mock draft at about 3:40 today. Trade happened at like 3:55. You get notifications as I'm driving away. Like, oh, blast. So yeah, the draft order that I had there is no longer correct because they did a little jockeying there. And I don't have the details in front of me exactly, but I know 13 and 15 flipped, The Packers are now picking 13th instead of 15th. The Jets are back to 15. The second round pick, one of them of the Jets, and they had 2 picks in there, was 42 and 43, I believe. I think the later one went to the Jets, and then or to the Packers, and then the first round pick next year for the Jets goes to the Packers, assuming Aaron Rodgers plays. I believe it's 65% of the snaps, and if he doesn't play that much, then that's going to really suck.
It gets ugly quick.
And I think the Packers got back a 5th rounder maybe this year, something like that.
Yeah,
I don't have it in front of me, but yeah, that's the nuts and bolts of it. Which means that Aaron Rodgers' last pass in a Packers uniform was picked off by Kirby Joseph, and that makes me incredibly happy.
You and me both, my friend. You and me both.
At least until further notice, Jordan Love's last pass, too. He got picked off by Tracy Walker.
Yeah. And we're going to have both of them on the field together the next time we play them, right?
Oh, man, fingers crossed.
Ooh, I like the sound of that. Man, the NFC North this year is probably about as wide open as it's ever been. And at least, I don't want to say ever, but as it's been in a long, long time for sure. This is going to be a heck of a year. I hope it winds up being a fun one and not a disaster of tears.
Oh,
And you know what? You hit on something there, and we'll broach on this very carefully and quickly, but the expectations we all have, and like some of us have been trying to curb that a little bit. Well, like even with like if you try to curb it down, like Minnesota's still, they're solid, but like Green Bay, I don't think they're going to be that good on offense. Chicago, I don't think is ready yet. Like it's going to be quite frankly quite disappointing if the Lions don't do it this year.
Yeah. I mean, it's disappointing every year, but this year in particular, it will be a stake through the heart. Oh gosh, we'll see. There's talk about Minnesota trading up for a quarterback as well, but we can go through that sort of thought process here. Let's get right to pick one. I say right to it. Here we are, 10 minutes in. We'll get right to pick one in the mock draft. Let's take a look at this. Carolina has traded up with Chicago, so they now have the first pick overall in the draft this year. Is there a lot of question about where they're going, Riz?
No, there was initially. Like, in fact, I was part of the propaganda machine that thought it was going to be C.J. Stroud. We came to a realization about 3 weeks ago that they were taking Bryce Young. That's why they moved up. And pretty much everybody in Carolina has validated it. Nobody in the organization has refuted it, and they are an organization that does actually leak and talk some things, and they haven't done anything like that. So, sure feels like Bryce Young.
Yeah. Michael, can you tell Riz about how far off the mark he is here?
All right, not before we address the all skate that sometimes breaks out behind you with those lights. What are we doing?
Shoot the duck, baby. DLP, the very best Lions coverage. Looking forward to watching you guys on draft night. Tampa, Detroit Lion, thank you, sir, for the super chat. $50 in. Yeah, draft night's going to be a party. It is going to be an absolute party. Michael will be introduced to drinking for dollars. Maybe he'll want to join. Who knows? We a couple bucks donated equals 1 second of drinking out of the Jägermeister fifth. I think I had 45 seconds last year that I had to do. And you just put it back and go. So get your favorite non-lethal kerosene and you can join drinking for dollars on draft night. All right. Michael doesn't know what he signed up for. It's
how bold of you to think this would be the first time I've been drinking for dollars.
Yeah.
All right.
And no, by the way, this might be the only pick that has no suspense to it, because it's going to be the young man from Alabama. He goes to Carolina. I still have massive reservations about him surviving as the outlier of outliers. I've been having this fight in the Slack. He's not short. He's small, and that's different. The short, Russell Wilson's short, but he's built like a fire hydrant. I spent some time with that kid. He's thick. Yep. He's just short. Yes. Bryce Young is small, and small in the NFL, historically not great. So we'll see. But yeah, that's the pick for sure.
Yep. All right, Bryce Young, number 1 overall. We move on to Houston with the second pick, or do we? Michael, I'm going to leave it to you. Does Houston pick number 2? And
I don't think they find what they want. I don't think they find what they want to move out. So yeah, I think they do, and they've obviously got some issues. They've got to get their coach, their general manager, and their owner all on the same page on a pick. Good luck, Godspeed. I know who the pick should be. I don't know that it will be though. And Risdon, you've got some history with this Houston franchise. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think it's a lie that they're out on Stroud. I think that's
No,
real.
I don't either. I don't
leaves you.
I don't think they're taking him, and nor do I think he wants to go there because his agent shares an agent with one Deshaun Watson. That did not end well for anybody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that guy's persona non grata down there on the coast. So that leaves you with Tyree Wilson or Will Anderson, and we'll find out how much say that the coach has, because it should be Will Anderson, but I think Tyree Wilson might win out here.
Tyree Wilson. So their general manager is Nick Caserio, who comes from the Bill Belichick Patriot way. And if you look at Tyree Wilson, his floor is like Trey Flowers, and his playing style is like Trey Flowers. And the Patriots love them some Trey Flowers.
Yeah, buddy.
And Will Anderson is more, I don't want to call him Von Miller because that's unfair because he's not, but he's more of that type of player. And you can see any scion of Patriot Way or disciple of Patriot Way wanting Tyree Wilson more. And I think that's what's going to happen. But again,
I'm with you.
And I did post this in the Slack. They don't know what they're doing yet. As of Sunday evening.
With football or just the draft?
Well, pretty much everything. They are still debating what's going to happen at number 2. So, and I trust the source that I have on that very much so. So we'll see, because it's kind of an important pick, because like you're going to hear this debate a lot this week, but there are a lot of teams that do rate Tyree Wilson higher than Will Anderson. I do not know if the Lions are one of those, by the way. I cannot get any clarification on that, and I don't want to speculate on it. But it's a real thing, and it wouldn't surprise me if the Texans went that way. But it also wouldn't surprise me if they went to Will Anderson. As Gray said, I don't think they're going to find what they're looking for in a trade. Because I don't think anybody thinks that Arizona is seriously going to take a quarterback. And the only reason you move up in the first round is to take a quarterback, period, in the top 10. To move up that high, if you do that for any other position, you're a freaking idiot.
Yeah, and getting ahead of Indianapolis would be the key to doing that anyway, which may leave Arizona with something to do at 3.
Yeah. So are we all in on Tyree Wilson to the Houston Texans at 2?
I think that's probably the way. I think that's the safest bet. Yeah, he is now, by the way, the betting favorite to be the first defensive player taken. That changed over the weekend. So,
all right,
the casinos know, but we don't.
Tyree Wilson, it is.
So number 2 next day.
Number 2 overall. That brings us to Arizona at 3. Arizona. I guess the first question is, a lot of people talking about possibly running up to 3 to get their guy with Arizona. They've got their little fella to throw the ball in the backfield. Does anybody make that trade work?
By the way, Kyler Murray, short, not small.
Right.
Another one.
Great example.
There's a difference.
He's probably got 25 pounds on Bryce Young.
Easily.
Baker Mayfield. People rip on him for being small. He's legitimately 6 foot 225. Like, he's not small. He's short. Difference. There is a difference, and it's an important difference. Yeah. I think they're trading this pick. The question is to who? Is Tennessee coming up from 11? Is Pittsburgh coming up from the depths of hell, or 17, or whichever comes first? You know, there's a lot of weird, like, what do the Jets do now that they have extra picks to play with? You know, well, they have Aaron Rodgers, but like, there's a lot of different things, teams that could move up. I don't think if you're in the top 10, you're going to move up that much, because I think you're going to be pretty comfortable. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but you're going to be comfortable that a quarterback's going to be there for you. Like, this is now you're taking the second quarterback. So this is one where, like, if you want one specific quarterback, this is where you make the move. If you want a quarterback, you can wait. And I think the Colts, quite frankly, at 4 are happy with either one of the 3, any of the 3 that are left. I think we all have a good idea of who they're taking, and we'll get to that in a minute.
Let me
But
ask you about one team in the top 10 though, because this is the one that intrigues me. And actually, Brandon just rolled it up in the chat. The Raiders. Could they pop up to get their guy right now?
I think they have their guy.
All right.
Yep. Yeah, I think you got to remember who you're dealing with in Josh
they're
McDaniels.
wrong.
That guy thinks he could turn you or I into a quarterback. He fancies himself
Absolutely.
a whisperer. And true to that Patriot thing, he's got somebody who's got the stink of Belichick on him now in the quarterback room with Garoppolo, and he's convinced he can turn him into something.
100%. Yep. They will take a quarterback leader.
Right.
They are the Lions competition for Aiden O'Connell in the middle rounds, from everything I've heard.
Yep. Okay. All right. So Arizona rolls up. Michael, I'm going to go to you. Who do you push into the Arizona spot if it's a trade or otherwise?
If it's a trade, I think it's Tennessee. If it's a trade, I think the Titans move up because that puts them ahead of Indy in their own division, and they may have a stronger feeling on one of these remaining quarterbacks. I'm having real trouble believing that Indy will just take whatever's left over. And so far the story has been they're happy with all three guys. Well, that's not possible. That's with a position that important and as badly as they've managed it, they can't just be like, I don't know, he throws things. He'll be fine. So
I've got GM is drafted that way.
He has, and the free agents too. They're like, I don't know, find me somebody who's on the verge of retirement, is getting these AARP.
Sam Ellinger, give me that guy. Yeah. So one quick thing: why the Titans would make a logical trade partner here is because the new Cardinals GM is Monty Ossenfort, who came from Tennessee, and obviously you've got some connections there. Now, Tennessee also happens to have a new general manager, so they could be a new GM looking to make a move up to make it identify himself. It sounds like there actually is a trade market. I can't believe this, but for Ryan Tannehill, there might be some team that really wants him. I pity that team. Not to beg on Ryan Tannehill either, because I think he's good, but I think you're absorbing a lot of contract there that you don't need to absorb. So it makes a lot of sense that they would want to do that. And keep in mind, rookie GM, rookie head coach who's defensive minded in Arizona. So you're looking at, like, this is a chance for us to punt this year. They have 6-year contracts too, much in the way that Brad and Dan did. They're knowing that Kyler Murray is going to be out for most, if not all of the season. They've effectively been given a redshirt year, which means extra picks. We're going to compete in 2024, 2025 and beyond after San Francisco hopefully falls off their cliff, after the Seahawks maybe implode, before the Rams ever figure out what they're doing with their defense, because they have. I looked at we're not going to get to the Rams tonight. The Rams have 2 players on their defensive roster right now who would make the Lions team. One of them's Aaron Donald. Like, that defense is wretched.
Yeah.
Wretched. So they're going to need some extra picks. So this is a chance for Arizona to punt on their first season. I think they will do it. So I think they're going to trade back with Arizona at 11. All
right. Are you feeling that, Michael?
Yeah. Like I said, that was the trade partner I thought that made the most sense. And if only to get in front of Indy, who is definitely, you know, in the quarterback, in a quarterback need situation and in the division.
All right. So we have Tennessee moving up to number 3. Arizona dropping back to number 11. And we now say, with the Tennessee Titans on the clock, who are they looking for?
That's a good question, too.
Let's
get their side of it.
Here's what I'll say. It should be C.J. Stroud. That should be the guy that they take.
I agree.
Should be.
That S2 thing, I think, is way overblown. I'm sorry. We've seen the guy in the field. Yeah. We know what he is. And for that to be the thing that I think that's just draftniks getting fooled by the latest standardized test, man.
There's 2 things to that. First, I don't believe that that's his score. I don't think that any of the scores that have been leaked by a neutral party. And that concerns me. And secondly, we don't have any correlation to whether there's any correlation to if it means anything, because we don't have any historical data on it. It's a very new thing that most teams haven't looked at until last year or this year. Everybody, cites Brock Purdy getting a great score on it. Well, Brock Purdy was good to Gray's point because he was a Shanahan guy. Like he was in a system where It makes everybody look good. Like put him in, Pittsburgh and see how he does. Put him in Atlanta, see how he does. I think this is a different story. So there's way too much emphasis being put on that. Maybe in 2 or 3 more years after we have more conclusive data and evidence that it actually means something, then we can worry about it. But right now, no.
Well, and the guy from S2 did the interview today with McAfee, and he disputed the score and flat out said, we had a guy, we tested him when he was in the middle of traveling. He was hurried. He was hectic. He was not interested in doing the test. He had one score. We gave it to him when he'd had some time to collect himself. He had a different score. He couldn't name anybody, obviously, but all indicators were he was talking about CJ Stroud. So they've disputed that themselves, that those numbers were legit.
Yep. All right. So let's say they know more than we do about the S2 scores. CJ didn't
couldn't know less.
Couldn't know less. But we'll say the teams know something.
Yep.
Where are we going with Tennessee? Tennessee made the big bold move to move up to number 3. I'm supposed to be the breaker of ties, so I won't weigh in there. Riz, what do you think?
This is a team that liked Malik Willis a year ago and was willing to live with this lump sum. That they've already apparently gone far in the other direction now because they have him
learned a lesson.
Yeah. I'll say this. If they keep Tannehill, it makes more sense to have Anthony Richardson. If they get rid of Tannehill, it makes more sense to have Stroud because Stroud can start right away. And I understand that. I also think that Anthony Richardson can start right away, but I don't think that the league is there. And so that's sort of a variable. And there's a lot of weird things that go on with these things. I would say they should take Stroud. I would take Stroud. He's my number 1 overall player.
Yep.
Will they do it? I mean, if you're moving up, are you going to move? Anthony Richardson has a higher ceiling than CJ Stroud. And if you're moving up, like you're wagering everything on this as your new general manager. Like this is, you're going to put yourself out there. Like a Jerry Maguire when Jerry Cantrell is the dude that Kinko's giving.
Here's where the thing is,
put it all out there, man.
If I'm the GM, right, and I'm putting myself in the position, and I hate to do this, but I'm supposed to be neutral here. But if I'm a rookie GM, I don't want the risk of the floor of Anthony Richardson for the potential gap between the ceiling of CJ Stroud and the ceiling of Anthony Richardson. I like the higher floor on CJ Stroud because I can build around that and formulate my plan as a team going forward. Less risk. Rookie GM gets his guy, and that's a guy that I think they think can carry the team for a long time. I don't know that it's like when you're stuck at 6 and you can't trade out. You got a little valley in the talent of the draft. You don't always match the pick with the value of what a number 6 is. People, they reached at 6. Well, they didn't have a choice. They couldn't trade out, right? It just doesn't always line up perfectly. Sometimes you win. Sometimes you get slightly less value. I just feel like as a rookie GM who's trading up, I don't think he wants to get another Malik Willis situation in year 1. Go ahead, Michael.
Here's the other thing to remember. If with all of the hubbub around CJ Stroud, what he is or what he isn't, who's going to know? An Ohio State alumni like Mike Vrabel is going to know. He's going to know what he's really all about behind the scenes and whether or not he believes that ceiling and floor are achievable and in range. I think CJ Stroud is the guy.
If they trade up, again, you get your Ohio State guy who knows the Ohio State stuff, and they've traded up in this scenario. It really does make sense that CJ Stroud is the guy. I think we may have lost Riz. He's going to have to reconnect here shortly.
We've lost Risdon,
but we have thoughtful Riz. We have thoughtful Riz right now.
He looks like he's contemplating something. Jeff Risdon in happier times.
He's like, you don't understand how bad things really are.
If somebody in the Slack isn't taking a screen cap of that so that we can Photoshop him on a swing set and at the beach watching a sunset with that face, somebody needs to get on that immediately.
Oh man, that's great. Oh, there he is. Hey, Riz.
Back.
Well, we didn't hear an argument.
Glitched.
I did. I froze.
We gave a moment for any retorts. Nobody retorted, so we picked CJ Stroud.
Thank you. Good.
All right, moving on. Pick number 4, the Indianapolis Colts. Oh, I feel like there's only one choice for them, but
Will Levis. It's going to be Will Levis.
Or as autocorrect will have you believe, Will Levi's.
Yes.
Because every time you try to spell that kid's damn name, it autocorrects to Levi's. He's the pants guy. I saw one guy in the Slack. It came out Levia, like a prescription drug. So
well.
Poor kid. We're only having a 5-letter name. Yeah, it's Will Levis, 100%.
Bing. All right, very quickly we can do that.
Yeah, Bryce Young, Will Levis. Those are the only two I feel like in the top 10 that are really kind of cut and dried.
Yep. All right, move on
For
to
some reason, Indy's coveting somebody nobody else wants.
I feel like the way things are breaking for us right now, that the next pick is cut and dry too. But we are now on the Seattle Seahawks. Michael, this is your hometown almost. Your adopted hometown.
Well, it was for a couple of years, and shy of them taking an unnecessary risk on a flashy pass catcher, which Pete Carroll just can't get enough of. And I don't think that's the way. They're a mirror image of Detroit. And I know I've been beating this drum for a while. I did the video on it, but I mean, even a kid named Brian Nemhauser, who is a blogger for the Seahawks, he rolled out all of the things he thought they were going to do. And if you just flip-flop Seahawks for Lions, you would have never known he wasn't talking about Detroit. So I don't think they're going to take a chance on the quarterback. I don't think this. I do think that. He went right down his list. I'm like, yeah, no, it reads like a punch list for the Lions. I'm having a hard time shaking the idea that Jalen Carter hasn't gotten their attention. They've taken character risks before. Frank Clark was the guy they drafted right after, immediately, within moments after Pete Carroll came out and made this strong stand about how we as NFL employees need to be more aware of the issues of domestic violence, and we need to take it seriously. It has to affect our policies and everything we do moving forward. And then he turned in the draft card for Frank Clark, immediately. So
Frank Clark, by the way, a man who smashed a lamp, took a lamp shard, held it up to his girlfriend's face, and said, "Do you want me to kill you or the baby first?"
Right.
Well, hey, he's a man of many
Eagle
choices. Well, they say, the thing is, I don't know who to attribute this to, but it's a great quote. And I'm going to paraphrase, so I'm really messing it up now. But you want your quarterback to be a valedictorian and prom king, and you want your interior defensive linemen to be inmates, right? Absolute criminals. Jalen Carter fits that.
Well, there you go.
Fits that.
Jalen Carter's not a criminal.
I know. I'm just the mentality. Come on, Riz, go with it.
Yeah,
they were misdemeanors as pled down.
I mean, I don't even think that's the biggest. I think the much bigger issue is, and it's something that a guy who covers Georgia sent me from SEC from their preseason, whatever they call it, media day. And it was a quote from their head coach that said, "We got to work on keeping his fire lit."
Right.
That right there is an instant disclaimer that he will never be a Detroit Lion. Not that we're going to have to worry about it because they're taking Jalen Carter in Seattle.
Right.
But for those of you who think that it's related to the tragedy that happened that he was affiliated with, I don't want to say he was involved. He was affiliated with it.
Right.
That's not it. That's not why the Lions wouldn't take him. Again, does it sound like a Dan Campbell guy when you kind of say, "Well, we got to keep his fire lit"?
Yeah,
no.
And look, I understand.
That's a very easy no. He's a great player when he wants to be, but he apparently didn't always want it to be that way. And if you look at his game, there are times where he does disappear a little bit. Cyrus Torrence beat the crap out of him, and he didn't really fight back, and that was a little frustrating too.
Pro day, man. To me, that's it. That's your chance with everything else going out to save your stock, to show nothing else is going to affect me. I am a football player first. I can execute on the field every time, no matter what, without question. And he didn't do it. That to me is the big killer for him for the Detroit Lions. End of story. I just think that precludes him from getting nothing else.
We don't have to talk about it because he's going to Seattle at 5. So
yeah,
end of story.
Well, and And not for nothing, with all of the, the guy's got more red flags than my college girlfriend, and I get that. That'll keep him out of Detroit. But in Seattle, Pete Carroll believes he can fix anybody. He believes his system.
100%.
Yep.
He's got his always compete is on the scoreboard out on the practice facility there at the VMAC. He believes that he can make this guy the best version of himself. And if Pete Carroll's right, then they have a wrecking crew on the inside, and they've got a big hole at DT. He fits a lot of needs, and like I said, Pete Carroll's ultimate belief is in himself, not his players.
Yeah,
and I think they take him.
And Pete Carroll's history
And
at
if it works,
Pete Carroll's history at
boys,
USC
man.
of leaving a criminal organization behind before he has to pay the piper, and then again, it's the same kind of a situation where, hey, if he doesn't work out, Carroll's probably only got a couple years. He can walk at any point right now. So it's
and look, not for nothing, Marshawn Lynch, Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas,
all great points.
Russell Wilson. There were some guys in there that all needed to be handled differently, and he was pretty good at it.
Yep.
Won himself a title.
He's very good at it. It's one of the reasons why he's lasted so long as a very successful coach, and one of the reasons
100%.
why their roster is not the best in the NFC West, but they're certainly competitive just about every year. The fact that they moved on from Russell Wilson and still made the playoffs, that's Pete Carroll's put that on his entry into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, if you can elevate Geno at that point in his career, you can do anything. You could do anything. All right,
so give him Jalen Carter. And now we're at the part of the draft where, frankly, I'm Hawkeye. All right, don't give me hope. What are we doing? We've done this. We've talked ourselves in. I did one of these mock drafts in the Slack a couple of days ago. It ended up like this. Peter King at MMQB did a mock draft. It ended up like this. We're at 6 and Will Anderson's still on the board. What are we doing?
Mock drafts. I've done mock drafts as part of like the writer thing where, you take a writer from every place and they do it. In 4 of the 6 that I've done, Will Anderson has been here at number 6.
Oh boy.
We're a scheme change isn't a foreign thing for the Lions, right? Aaron Glenn, Will could fit. Two guys screaming off the edge.
People talk about it as a 4-3 versus 3-4. Nah. This is a 5-2 where the 4 and the 5 are standing up on the outside, and it's Will Anderson and it's Aiden Hutchinson with John Kaminsky inside, with Aleem McNeil roaming around wherever he wants to go, and Isaiah Buggs anchoring the middle along with their 2nd or 3rd round draft pick that'll be Keanu Benton. And that's nasty. And you can bring James Houston in if you want to get speedier and drop Hutchinson down the inside more. That is something that I can see Aaron Glenn embracing and doing.
Good luck hitting the edges on that defense. In the run game. Good luck hitting the edges with those guys out there.
Yeah.
Godspeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing you're doing with that is you are eliminating a receiving tight end as an option from the offense, which means that you don't have to worry about Alex Anzalone or Malcolm Rodriguez not being able to cover anybody, because they're not going to have that much time, because they have to keep a tight end in or a running back in. Otherwise, their quarterback's going to die.
And
I like that.
Let's be honest. How long has it been since they've been able to stop any kind of a receiving tight end? I mean, it's been decades, like with an S. I mean, it's been forever.
That was like the one thing that the Marinelli era Lions did well. They actually covered tight ends well. They just couldn't do anything else.
Was it DeAndre Levy, the last linebacker you could trust?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Anzalone's not
you couldn't
bad.
trust him in the offseason. I mean, let's go sliding down the volcano.
Jeff, I was hoping that we could get through this exercise without you and I fighting about Anzalone, but I can't. I
continually point out that PFF makes him out to be a lot worse than he actually is, and I point to the deflected passes statistics where they didn't even give him credit for his own interception. They dog him unnecessarily because they don't know what he's doing in their defense, and that bothers me a little bit. Is he good? No, I'm not going to argue that he's good, but they cheat him and they dog him at PFF, and it's bad because it makes the casual fan, let alone the people like us who are a little bit more involved than casual fans, it makes us have a lesser opinion of him than he actually is, and that's not right.
Well, I will say this. Somebody like Will Anderson in that mix, if you give Aaron Glenn that toy to play with, he can put Anzalone exactly where he needs to be. Just like with Malcolm Rodriguez. I think he's got limitations to his game. We saw that. As good as he was and how much everybody loved him in the passing game, he's nowhere. As long as he's coming downhill, wrapping up, gator rolling guys to the ground, great, awesome. And somebody like Will Anderson unlocks a different part of this defense in that front seven. And you start talking about mixing and matching, and where's Kaminsky lighting up, and where did 97 go, and where's the rookie at, and then James Houston's on the field, and you can do your NASCAR package looks pretty outstanding with the addition of this guy in that front seven.
So can I just hit the commit button here, Will Anderson?
Yep.
Boom.
Do it.
We've been committed.
Now, real quick, just to be devil's advocate, if Will Anderson's there at 6, does somebody come up and ransom the farm? Does somebody try to trade with Detroit that thinks they're a Will Anderson away?
That wouldn't surprise me. I don't know if they take it, but they certainly have to consider it. Absolutely.
I wonder if Will Anderson at 6 doesn't get you better offers than any of the quarterbacks in the top 5.
It might. You're looking at who would come up for him though. Who is that desperate for a pass rusher?
Well,
Atlanta at 8.
Who's desperate for the ceiling on Richardson? Right.
Yeah. Right.
He's available still, and Las Vegas is a potential home for him. I believe. I know they got their guy. I know they got their Garoppolo, but that ceiling, if you're Las Vegas, and you've sat with Garoppolo, you've seen everything he's done for the last 43 years he's been in the league. Boy, not bad to sit Richardson behind him for a year. Get him up. I mean, I feel like Richardson is a commodity at 6. Somebody, if they really, really wanted him, they would trade it.
Yeah. It could be, but why would you trade with 6 when you know that the Lions aren't going to take him and the Raiders probably aren't going to take him? Because that, you can trade with the Raiders and give up instead of a second-round pick, maybe a third-round pick or something like that.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. You're not going to want to give up what you don't have to unless you're Chris Ballard of the Colts, because that's what he does.
All right. So we'll leave. We've already got Will Anderson. You can't trade your pick once you've made it.
Well,
so.
let me just say one thing. There's a lot of people that are very skeptical that this will happen. It only takes Tyree Wilson being taken ahead of Will Anderson for this scenario to play out. Because I think everything else we've said, you can substitute the quarterbacks around whatever you want, but 3 quarterbacks, Jalen Carter and Tyree Wilson, is probably a more realistic top 5 than you might think it would be. And I think it's somebody asked me on Twitter today, what are your chances that it could do this? I said 45%. And that's I actually probably think it's higher than that, but I want to, because I don't know what's going to happen and I don't want to be overconfident in what's going to happen. Somebody could bring an offensive lineman into here, or Will Anderson could go too. You never know. So, but I do think that Will Anderson being a lot better in 2021 than 2022 is something that the NFL considers a lot more than most fans do. He gained a little weight and he wasn't as good. And if he loses the weight, he's not going to be the run defender that you necessarily want him to be. He might not start in Detroit next year. He might be behind Josh Pascal. He might not. He might take over the role that James Houston was in. I cannot reinforce enough. The team absolutely believes that Josh Pascal is getting 10 sacks this year. They love the guy. They really do. And that's why it's weird that they would take Will Anderson, but I think that's because of the perception of how good Will Anderson can be. And when Brad Holmes talked at the owners' meetings about overloading a position, I think, my guess, I don't know this, I'm just saying, I think this is what he was talking about, this sort of situation.
Yeah.
Well, and we've seen successful teams do it. I mean, who's spent more on defensive linemen than any team in the league? San Francisco. That front is pretty important. Yeah, pretty good.
They even missed on Javon Kinlaw, and it's still working out for them. They missed on Solomon Thomas big time, and it's still working out for them. That guy's terrible.
The other side of it is you could probably make the argument, especially with the Okuda trade, that Brad Holmes feels like he's got his secondary shored up with the moves that he's made this year. And a Will Anderson pick, then the line helps the secondary helps the line, right? That Will Anderson pick elevates the secondary to exactly where he needs it to be.
You're also looking at a very, very deep cornerback class. And if you pass on one at 6, you can get one at 18, you can get one at 48, you can get one at 55, you can get one at 159 who might be able to play.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think it's a lot easier to pass on a cornerback here than it is to pass on Will Anderson.
Yeah, yeah. All right, moving on. Las Vegas Raiders. Who do we see them? Riz, let's give you the mic and let you run the run the train on them.
Where's my dartboard? Raiders fans insist that they're not looking at their offensive line, and I think they should. This makes sense for where the first offensive lineman should come off, but I haven't seen, like in all those drafts that I've done, none of them have gone offensive line. So a lot of the times that the player here is Christian Gonzalez. Not always, but he seems to be one of the favored picks here. And I get that because they need a lot of help on their defense. Nolan Smith has been brought up here. I don't think he's going this high. This is tough, man. Like it could be, you could throw Lucas Van Ness in there. You could throw Devon Witherspoon in there. You could throw any number of defensive players here. And again, quarterback certainly makes sense if somebody wants to move up now and make sure that Atlanta isn't serious about, or is serious about, hey, we're not really taking a quarterback. Then this would be a spot where a team like who's picking and needs a quarterback now? Not Green Bay. Tennessee got theirs. Not the Jets because they just traded for Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay at 19 makes sense to move up this far. And they have shown a willingness to move around before. So
Minnesota.
Maybe this is moving up from 19. Maybe this is Minnesota moving up from where they're 23. 23 to 9 is doable. It's been done. Or 23 to 7. That's similar to what the Texans did to get Deshaun Watson. Similar to what the Chiefs did to get Patrick Mahomes. It's not unprecedented to move up this far. It's basically like an all-in on, like, we absolutely love this guy move. And by the way, it's worked out pretty well for those teams until Deshaun got massage happy. I think we have to consider the fact that this.
So we're not even doing phrasing anymore. Like,
he just didn't know what they were ending in there.
Is what you meant to say.
That hay's out the barn.
Oh man. All right. So first and foremost, what about Washington? I'm trying to think of their needs. Do they feel like that are they in the market for an Anthony Richardson? Because this is where I feel like
they seem to like Sam Howell.
Yeah.
Like they're willing to let that ride and see what they've got, which in a way I kind of envy. I kind of like that, but because I kind of like Sam Howell and I think he deserves a shot anyways. I don't know. They don't seem like, well, again, they're being sold. What does a new owner want to do? Like, there's so many variables in this. Peter King pointed that out very astutely in his Monday Morning Quarterback, or not Monday Morning, Football Morning in America for NBC when he did his mock draft in it. And he correctly noted that, like, there's so many rookie GMs, new GMs, rookie head coaches, new head coaches in all these places, new owners in some places. Trying to predict this is insane. We're trying to be a little bit less insane than some other people here is basically the long and the short of it. And like Minnesota, second-year GM, trying to stake out on his own. Like he was kind of aggressive last year. He's not afraid to make a trade within the division.
Yeah, he's made moves. Yep.
They will be aggressive. He is Kwesi is from the Andrew Berry school of aggressively seeking to acquire talent at all times. That's Andrew Berry, the general manager of the Browns. That's his mission statement. And I think Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah is part of that school. And he's also, by the way, was in San Francisco when they made the trade for Trey Lance. So, like, yeah, they could do that. They could certainly move up this far. Do we want to do that without so if you're moving from 23 to 7,
It's costly.
first this year, third this year, first next year at minimum.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
You're giving up the farm.
Are they a quarterback away?
If they're stuck, if Oakland's stuck there, I think Gonzalez is the pick. Jeff's original point. Cornerback is a need for them, and the one position that we haven't taken a premier guy off the top yet. You haven't taken any of the corners, so they've got their pick of the litter. I think they go with the tall, athletic one from the West Coast. They've no doubt had some eyes on Oregon games. I think he checks a lot of boxes for a corner needy team.
He's a good player, real good player.
Yep.
All right, locking it in. Christian Gonzalez to the Las Vegas Raiders. Off they go. Number 8 now. Atlanta Falcons are up. I guess the first question is, do they pick?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think so. I still think that coaching staff is playing with house money, and getting another premier talent in the door probably matters. Now, having said that, I don't have a clue which direction they go. I think I hadn't even thought of this until this morning when Peter King dropped his mock. But do they go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and go get Bijan and throw him into that offense and just go nuts?
That's what I did in what I would do mock draft. They published today. Check it out, DraftWire. Thank you.
That hadn't even occurred to me. And and then I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, no, they could just score 65 points a game like the Big 12 and just hope to outlast people. Because otherwise,
so Desmond Ritter's their quarterback. If you want to make Desmond Ridder be the best Desmond Ridder he can be, you get him the best running back prospects in Saquon Barkley. That's not Tyler Algier is a good running back. You're not taking Bijan Robinson because you have Tyler Algier. Just as the Lions would not take Bijan Robinson because they have David Montgomery.
Right.
He's that much of a trump card. So I don't. Bijan is impossible to slot. He could go here. He could go 20. I don't think a single person would be surprised. And that's one of the issues with this draft. So they could take a cornerback, but they don't have to take a cornerback. They could take an offensive lineman, but they don't have to take an offensive lineman. They're in a weird spot here. So this is a spot where, let's say Pittsburgh really wants their pick of the best offensive lineman, and that's a very credible thought. I'm saying that from spending the weekend in Pittsburgh and talking to people at a Pirates game. They either want, in Pittsburgh, not to jump ahead, but they either want Joey Porter Jr. or X offensive lineman. And getting in front of the Bears is important to get X offensive lineman. The Bears pick 9th. Right. This is a spot where a team that wants one specific offensive tackle could move up to. And I think Atlanta would be willing to deal back. But is it Pittsburgh? Is it Washington? Is it Tampa Bay? Although they just got Tristan Wirfs done, so probably not. Even though they still have Donovan Smith as the revolving door that sacks the quarterback a lot at left tackle. Who else? Minnesota, maybe? No, they're good. I don't know. New England? Be uncharacteristic for them to move up. But
yeah.
Very.
Maybe Darnell Wright, maybe Paris Johnson, maybe Peter Skoronski is worth that to a team here. That's something you got to consider. Anyways.
All right. Rob, Michael's looking like Manson with the hair and lighting.
Yeah. Should have worn a hat.
It's a good look. It's a good Manson look, though. You're the good Manson.
So the bad one was taken. They need edge help. They need DT help. They need cornerback help. Their quarterback is, they've drafted wide receivers. They've drafted tight ends. They should have enough playmakers over there. Nolan Smith is another interesting. Does he become a piece that somebody takes a chance on? I think I've got a better landing spot for him. I can't get Arthur and his offense out of my head, though, with Bijan. I can't. I just the kid's a special talent, and like I said, I don't think the coaching staff is under the gun. Win now, but in that division with a good enough offense, you score enough points, you're going to contend with some people. Who else is going to step up? Tampa Bay, Carolina. Anybody know what New Orleans is? Anyone? Bueller? Anyone? Derek Carr? So I say
I legitimately forgot he was there.
Yeah, exactly. It's easy to forget. So yeah, I think Bijan looked pretty good there in Atlanta. Scary.
Let's do it. Let's make it the pick.
Oh,
sure.
I buy that. This is one of ththose variables that happens, like the Raiders taking Cleveland Farrell at 4 when most people thought he was going 20.
I really liked Mike Mayock in the booth too. I hated what he did as a GM.
Yeah,
I enjoyed him on the NFL Network.
He was very good.
Yeah.
Bijan.
Right. Yep, Bijan Robinson goes to the Atlanta Falcons. We now are on the clock. Michael, you are the Chicago
Gross.
I know. I hate to do that to you, brother.
That's not nice. I want to give him Skronsky just because you get to say it with that annoying nasally Chicago accent. Skronsky. But
that's such a perfect pick.
Funny story. Funny story. Driving through that part of the world with my wife, and we turn on Wisconsin morning radio, and of course they're talking about the Badgers. And my wife looks at me, she's like, "Why do they talk like that?" I'm like, "You've been gone too long, sweetie. This is how the people in Wisconsin and Illinois, that's how they talk, okay? It all comes right through your nose."
Yeah. Don't short sell Michigan on that one though.
I'm playing to the local crowd, Chris. I think the big kid from Ohio State ends up in Chicago. I think Paris Johnson. They need all the linemen. They can't, if they have another year where Fields takes the kind of hits he's taken so far. That'll be it. He'll be scrambled eggs, and you can't have him getting up in the huddle too many more times and coming in and going, "I'm Batman." So yeah, I think you got to get him line help. You got to be a certain age to get that reference. That was back before head injuries were serious.
Before we cared about it, right?
Yeah, exactly. What's the score?
Yes.
It's 28-7. Where are we at? Baltimore. What's your name? I'm Batman. So, yeah.
Oh man! All right, Riz, you in on Paris? You in on Paris Johnson,
Yeah.
or you want to go with Peter
Yeah,
Skoronski?
so I will harken back to an old theory of mine from when I worked at Real GM, that my penultimate mock was more accurate than my final mock. My penultimate mock had Paris Johnson there because I wrote it 6 weeks ago. It's like, yeah, that's where everybody in Chicago was landing. And now all the smoke has come on and like, all right, I got to take somebody else. Let's go back to Paris Johnson. Why not?
Boom.
Good
All
player.
right.
Real good. Real ready to play player.
Yes.
And he can also play either side. And depending on what they do with Braxton Jones, who was wretched against Detroit last year, like they got to do something, man. Because if you're seriously committed to building around Justin Fields, you need to be able to keep Justin Fields on the field, and line is the way to do that. So let's go. Right. Let's go, Paris Johnson.
All right, Paris Johnson at 9. We are up to number 10. The Philadelphia, the Pi Hidelia Eagles are up. Risdon, take her away. Who you picking?
So I have two people that I will present to Michael Gray here as the potential pick. Nolan Smith, Lucas Van Ness. I think it's going to be one of those two. I'm weirdly overly confident that it's going to be one of those two players. Which one do you think they would take out of that group?
Nolan Smith. He's the freak. He's the guy who brings in all of the crazy numbers, and gives you a piece that maybe it's what was it? Isaiah Simmons, the kid that went to Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
It's something like that, but where it works because it's not Arizona. So Philadelphia actually knows what they're doing and won't just throw him out there and wonder why it's not working out.
Arizona drafting
he
4
looks
iterations of the same guy in the first round in 5 years and wondering why none of
right.
them worked.
And then never putting any of them in the right spot to do anything. I mean, they didn't put them in a spot to succeed. I think Philadelphia has proven pretty adept at that. They've got to find in this draft. They've got to find some line reinforcements because that defense is getting pretty old. But I think here, if Bijan's not available, because I think Philadelphia could take him at 10. I think if Bijan makes it to 10, but in this one he didn't, he gets swept up at 8. You take another freak of nature, and on the defensive side, I think Nolan makes a lot of sense.
I'll buy that.
All right. Nolan Smith is in. That gets us through the first 10 picks of the draft. I'll do a quick rehash of who's been picked so far. Also, you can follow the scroll at the bottom of the screen. But first, Duncan D's Nuts has a great question. Chris, I have a lot of business travel lined up next month. Can you remind me where I can acquire the suitcase behind Riz? What a great question. I'm glad you asked. That is a cabin suitcase. The maximum allowed size is a cabin suitcase on the airline. Beautifully emblazoned with the Detroit Lions podcast emblem. You can go to DetroitLionsPodcast.com/store and get action on that. It's got the TSA locks. It's a beautiful thing. I use mine every time I travel, which is like monthly. So definitely a really nice bag. There you go. All right, let's go through the first 10 picks. First, we have the Carolina Panthers taking Bryce Young. We have Houston at number 2, unable to trade out. They get outside linebacker Tyree Wilson. Tennessee trades with Arizona for the number 3 spot and gets themselves a CJ Stroud quarterback. At 4th, Indianapolis goes with Will Levis, leaving Seattle defensive tackle Jalen Carter. And then the Detroit Lions at 6 with Will Anderson dropping to us to give us the line of doom. Also, Christian Gonzalez goes to the Las Vegas Raiders, Bijan Robinson to the Atlanta Falcons, Paris Johnson to the Chicago Bears, and Nolan Smith to the Philadelphia Eagles. We move up to 11, where the Arizona Cardinals have fallen after their trade to number 11. What are they going to do? And if you guys make them trade back again, you're putting yourselves at risk. I'm just telling you right now, as we talked about at the beginning of the show, none of this trade back for a bunch of stuff all day. Okay. Riz, I'm gonna point to Arizona.
Somebody just sent me a DM on Twitter, and this person will know who it is, and I know he's watching. Keep an eye on Witherspoon to the Cardinals. That feels like kismet to me. Like I just got that. Like holy crap, dude. So it makes sense. They
as long as he's not.
They need him.
As long as he's not talking about a 3. What I mean, if Arizona, that could be one of those things that on Thursday that happens and you watch Witherspoon go at 3 and it throws everybody's mock directly into the garbage disposal.
Yeah.
They could also take Paris Johnson at 3. There are rumors that Arizona is interested in Paris Johnson as high as 3. I don't know if I believe those, but they're out there.
I think it makes more sense.
Can't rule anything out this year. Like we said at the top, for those of you just joining, we don't know what's going to happen. This is our best guess.
Yep. That's what.
Sometimes we might be the monkey with the lucky blow dart every now and then. We also might be the monkey with the blow dart that's blowing up your boat. So who knows?
I don't want to give monkeys blow darts. I'm going to move to Michael. Michael's frozen. He's had Elon.com internet issues. He'll be back in a second. So while we're waiting for Michael to come back and talk about,
he looks great though, doesn't he?
Devin Witherspoon. He always looks good. God. While we're waiting for him to confirm the Devin Witherspoon pick, we ask you to like and subscribe. Hit the like button. That's free. And if you're watching, hanging out, it's fun. It's easy to do. Helps other people find us. Helps us with the show. Also, the subscribe lets you know when we go live, like on our live draft show that we're doing, as well as all the other great things that we do. It helps us out a great deal. Helps us keep doing what we do. You get to see all the videos that are coming out. We're almost once a day with new content. It's pretty nice. So like, subscribe, and we usually ask once per show. So thank you all for taking part in doing that for us and helping us out as we continue to punch out as much content for you in the Lions arena as we can. All right, we're going to leave him there, and we're going to move on, and we're going to take...
He's like Han Solo frozen in the background.
He is. Chris, I'm studying to be a botanist. Can you tell me where I can get the name of the plant behind Jeff? CBD.DetroitLionsPodcast.com. CBD.DetroitLionsPodcast.com.
The little one is a succulent of some sort. I'm actually in my wife's office, so I'm not a botanist. I did take botany once.
Oh, did Mike come back? Oh, he moved. Oh,
He's
there he
back.
is. Michael.
God, now he's even more devastatingly handsome. Good grief.
Okay.
All right. Is that it? You got audio?
You're approaching
Yep.
Brady Quinn
You guys
status
were
with me,
frozen
bro.
on my screen, but I could hear you.
Oh, wow. All right. We've got Devin Witherspoon to Arizona Cardinals.
All right, good enough. I'll take it. Sure.
We're moving on to the Houston Taxmans. Riz, that's your native hometown, sort of adopted. Why don't you take on for the Houston Taxman? What are we doing down there?
We took Will Levis, right? We have not taken Anthony Richardson yet.
Will Levis
Nope.
is gone. Yes, Anthony Richardson is still on the board.
It's Anthony Richardson.
Boy, this is ideal for them, isn't it?
Over him
Yeah.
and Hooker?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I did see that in a mock today. Was that Peter King's? I don't even remember.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
that seems hasty to me. Not that
Well,
I don't like Hendon Hooker, but I think taking him over Anthony Richardson, who is 5 years younger than him, that's, they're in a position. They have Davis Mills, they have Case Keenum. I think Case Keenum has done this role before, where he goes in where there's a rookie quarterback that needs a little bit of time, and he can buy them that time, but he will also teach them how to become a professional NFL quarterback. He's going to be one of those guys like Mark Brunell, who's going to be a quarterback coach in the future. Like, it's preordained. Kellen Moore was the same way. Like, not the most physically talented guy, in Kellen Moore's case, not physically talented at all, but you know that he's going to be able to help. He helped Matthew Stafford. I think Kellen Moore deserves a little bit of credit for helping Matthew Stafford become a better quarterback, even though Kellen Moore was younger than him, came in later. I think he helped him see the field and see things differently. I like the idea of Case Keenum being that guy for Anthony Richardson. And they desperately need a quarterback because, like, Money Mills, he's got the biggest neck in the world, but he's not helping him throw footballs very well.
There you go.
No, I'm on board with that. If AR is still on the board, that makes a lot of sense.
All right. Houston takes Anthony Richardson. Quick question. The Smoothie King just opened near the crib. What's the DLP preferred order? For me, it's the Caribbean Wave. For my boy, it's Angel Food. Riz, what's your Smoothie King? Your go-to?
So this weekend, I had the Hulk Gladiator with vanilla and banana, and it was great. It's a coffee drink.
You got it just for the name.
It's really good.
I know you, Riz. You got it just because of the name.
I like the Island Impact if I'm looking for something a little different. And they also have one that's got, and I forget what it's called. It's got ginger and spinach and something else in it. And spinach really aggravates my gout, so I don't get it very often, but it's a good one too. By the way, for those of you who have gout, first off, you probably shouldn't be drinking beer. Secondly, spinach is the worst trigger for it.
Michael, do you have anything to add to gout talk?
I promise you, in the entire World Wide Web, no one else is going to hear the words "aggravate my gout" in their mock draft. You're only getting that here on DLP. That is 100% proprietary content. Well played, sir. I did not see that curveball coming. I'm gonna Google
keep
what
it fresh,
gout
baby.
is, figure out what that is, and why spinach is suddenly your enemy. That's a terrible kryptonite to have, man.
You really don't want gout. It sucks, man. It really sucks.
Gout talk.
I don't want my ass kicked by spinach. That sounds terrible.
All right, let's move up from.
Good Lord.
At least Risdon didn't mention hemorrhoids, Rob, in the chat. Don't worry, we're not to pick 18 yet.
Not as bad as gout.
Wait till we get
We're
to pick 18.
not even halfway through the first round.
Oh man. All right, let's move forward. We've got Green Bay now up to 13, ready with their pick. I doubt there's a podcast funnier than this. Jeez. Where's the rails? Get on them. Green Bay at 13. Riz, save your gout talk.
Stay
Give
on
us a
target.
pick.
Stay on target.
13.
Old.
So they could take an edge here. They could take. I don't think they're looking at wide receiver here, although Jackson Smith and Jigba should be on their radar. They do have to replace David Bakhtiari at some point. He's not able to play often enough anymore. He's great, but like he's missed. I want to say he's missed more games than he's played in the last 3 years. If not, it's close to that. So maybe offensive tackle Darnell Wright makes sense. If you go to the defensive side, Miles Murphy makes sense. Cornerbacks, they do not take short corners, so Joey Porter makes sense. He's certainly long. Deonte Banks makes a lot of sense for them. That's something that I know that has come up in Packers Twitter is like, we really like him at 15, don't we? Like they're a very insecure bunch. They're very skittish and they're very group thinky. But it kind of makes sense for that too. So that's sort of where my head is at to start here. I think they're going to go offensive line, offensive tackle, or cornerback or edge because they do stick to those are premium positions in the NFL. They do a very good job of valuing premium positions in their premium picks. They do that incredibly well. So I think that's sort of where we're looking at here. I don't think they're taking a quarterback. I don't think they're taking Hendon Hooker. He's older than Jordan Love. I don't think that's going to happen.
Jordan Love's dad.
Yeah. By the way, Stetson Bennett is older than all of those guys.
Oh, man.
And chose to get drunk instead of playing at the Senior Bowl. Yeah. He ain't going to get drafted. Sorry. He's not. So that's where I'm at. I'm like,
do they give Aaron Rodgers the Marcus Hall epic double bird and get him a pass catcher in the first round the minute he's out the door? Do they grab Dalton Kincaid?
Wouldn't that
do
be
they
fun?
go tight end? Yeah.
Oh, they could.
Are you kidding?
So they could. They don't have Robert Tonyan anymore. He's in Chicago, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think. And then, or maybe the kid from Notre Dame, Mayer.
Michael Mayer.
Yeah. Kincaid doesn't give you anything in the run game, which they need.
Kincaid's the alpha receiver. Mayer is the I'm going to do everything kind of guy. I don't know which one they would prefer out of that, quite frankly.
I mean,
Kincaid a little bit better because I think you can teach him to block, and I don't think you can make Michael Mayer any more athletic. Just my thought. I don't know if they think.
Yeah, you get a true Y out of Kincaid. You get a true Y to add to that pass game. They're going to have to put the training wheels on Jordan Love a little bit, right? I mean, they got to give him something. And I mean, I'm reading way into this. Okay, so just let me go off into fantasy island here for a second. But if you watch that announcement today with Gutekunst, like that when he was talking about or Gutekunst, or however you say his name,
the plane,
Judy,
right? Like all of his body language and the fact that they asked him if he talked to Aaron, he said no, I talked to his agent, and just got the deal done, and all of that other stuff. They've got some extra draft collateral now. They've got another second round pick. They could put a shiny new toy on that offense.
It makes sense.
And it would just be, like I said,
a premium position. They do need
what a great
epic
double bird to give Rodgers on his way out.
He does make the receivers like Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson. He helps those guys get better.
Yeah.
Because I think he deflects coverage away. He is a matchup problem for the Lions. I think that's who they're sort of chasing.
Not anymore. They got Will Anderson.
All right. I'm locking in Dalton Kincaid. And you guys can't talk me out of it.
Okay.
All right.
The arbiter.
I love passive aggressive Packers. They're my favorite.
I'll leave it there. I don't want to be violent. New England at 14. I do want to be, but I can't. New England at 14. They want all the players. I mean, what a unique team. They're always drafting at like 29, 27, 32, whatever. You never see what they can do at 14. So much creativity here for Bill Belichick. Michael, what do you think they're going to do in
I think they're going to. I think they need offensive tackle help, and I think they do the boring New England thing, and find themselves. And this might be where Skransky goes. That short arms and all, but some positional versatility. That's something Bill Belichick covets. They can move him inside. He could play guard. They can move him outside in a pinch. Again, despite the short arm thing, I think he makes a lot of sense. The other guy that I can't get out of my head for this team is Brian Branch. They need safety help in New England. New England, like the Alabama guys, Brian Branch is one of those no-nonsense, just plays football, puts his damn head down and gets the job done. Again, some positional flex. He could move out and be a slot corner. He's a guy that makes a lot of sense for New England too. So in my head, it's one of those dudes. I'll let Jeff be the tiebreaker on that.
I was going with Branch. He would have been my leadoff guy here because he played the star, he played the money, he played outside corner, all at Alabama. Those are all different roles. He all played them all very well. They do need safety help. I was looking at their depth chart. Like they're unusually thin there. They're also unusually thin at offensive line for them. But I think for what you just said, the Alabama Saban connection. Yeah, I like Brian Branch here. It's a good pick. He is. I think he's my number 14 overall player, and we're at number 14. So again, Kismet. I'm a believer in that. Let's go.
Oh, I was so hoping we'd have someone pock the car for Skransky, but all right, here you go. Brian Branch.
What are you doing? That was
Chris.
Mixing Boston and Chicago.
I took last week.
Skransky. It's got to be Skransky.
Chris and I talked, and we both agreed that Peter Skransky was a guy that we thought could fall further than expected, and that's what's happening here. And you're seeing that kind of reflected in a lot of the early final mock drafts that are coming out too. He's not in the top 10 very often. Won't be in mine either.
Sad day for the fighting Smarties of Northwestern.
Fighting Smarties. All right, Duncan D's Nuts. DLP is my safe space. Thank you, brother. You can be my safe space a little later. All right, let's go on. We're on New York Jets after their trade with.
I'd rather aggravate Risdon's gout.
New York Jets at 15 after trade with Green Bay earlier today. They've picked up Aaron Rodgers. It's time to get him some weapons. Show those Green Bay Packers how to draft. Riz, who are you taking?
They need offensive line help because Mekhi Becton hasn't worked. And Aaron Rodgers needs to not be harassed, harangued, buried. So offensive line here, we're looking at Darnell Wright is here. Skoronski's here. He certainly makes sense. He might actually make more sense because he can play, although Wright can play guard as well. I think Skoronski playing, you try him at tackle. If he doesn't work, you move him inside to guard. That's what any team should do. But especially with this team, that makes sense because their guards are pretty good. Like Elijah Vera Tucker's he's a good player. So he makes sense. They don't necessarily need the best center. Who else is out there? Osiris Torrance as a guard, probably not. They took AVJ a couple of years ago, or AVT.
What about Broderick Jones there at Georgia?
Yeah, and I literally just glanced at his name. He makes sense too, and he's a good fit. He might be more ready to play tackle than those guys. This is a guy who played both tackles at Georgia. Good player. Good in the run game too, and that's something that we saw them last year when they had Breece Hall and were running the ball. While they were a very good football team, when they didn't, then it was Zach Wilson's turn or Mike White's turn. And other than 1.5 glorious weeks, Mike White, that pumpkin done exploded. So he makes sense actually. I kind of like that. It's not like there are people that think he's going 9 to Chicago. So I think that's because they're confused because they have a different guy, but
well, whoever the Jets take, he's got to be ready to go because Aaron Rodgers isn't getting a day younger, and he's got to play 65% of those snaps, right? Yep. I mean, that's right. If he hits 64, 1, I will never stop laughing, and 2, the Jets have no shot, so they got to get a guy that's on the field. Seriously, I mean, you telling me you didn't think that? Like, what if something happens? He blows an MCL in camp because that can happen. And then all of a sudden, all of those Packer hopes and dreams of that late first round extra pick go poof. But anyway, it's got to be O-line help. It has to be because they've got to protect the old man.
Yeah, Broderick Jones makes a lot of sense here. And again, he can play left or right. When we're looking at Darnell Wright, I think he's a right tackle. When we're looking at Skoronski, he's either your right tackle or your guard. I think the ability to find the best combination there goes. I think it works better with Broderick Jones. So he would be the pick there. It's weird because we were thinking like when they were picking at 13 and before the trade was made, like maybe they don't go in that direction, but now it sure seems like they got to do. You're all in. Like, this is a move. Like, Aaron Rodgers might only play a year. You've got to maximize that as much as you can. They're fine at wide receiver. Garrett Wilson's phenomenal. They have good pieces around him. If Breece Hall comes back at running back, they're fine. Like, you can get a running back in the 4th or 5th round this year that'll be 95% of what you can get with the guy that you would take here. So, yeah, Broderick Jones makes sense.
All right, locking it in. We've been committed. All right, moving on. Number 16, probably the envy of the entire NFL, the Washington communists, commodes, whatever, at 16. Michael, if you were a commode, who would you pick? Knowing your owner is going to flush the whole thing anytime now.
Right. They need O-line help. They need corner help. Quarterback is that's a question mark, a little bit like Atlanta, a little bit, like some other places they seem to want to go with their guy. And you don't know, I don't know how much the turmoil at the upper office, I don't know how much that's going to affect your long-term planning. You can always plan around O-line help. The only thing that's sticking out to me is the fact that JSN is still on the map. He's still on the board right now. And you could give them arguably the best receiver in a admittedly down receiver class to go with all of the questions they have at quarterback. I mean, there's two ways to solve it. You fix a quarterback or you fix everything else and hope that that's enough to keep him upright and productive. I tend to think you build from the line. Like I said, it's so hard to know because I don't know who's making the decisions in Washington right now. The whole thing is so upside down. Good teams are built from the trenches out, and you've got a couple of guys there. Darnell Wright is still on the clock. Scranty, he's still out there. Of those two, I'd probably lean Darnell Wright to Washington. Just give them what they need and how safe OT is, and yeah, he's measurably better, certainly. So
he beat the snot out of Will Anderson. That's pretty ringing endorsement, especially now that Will Anderson's a member of the Detroit Lions in this draft. So,
yeah.
Right.
You in on Darnell right there?
I don't have an issue with it. I think they should look at cornerback here as well, whether it's Joey Porter or Deonte Banks. But it makes sense that they would go line. Like, if you're like you said, Gray, if you're guessing what a good team would do, first off, you're probably not talking about Washington, but if they resemble a good team at some point, they would probably take the offensive line here. If Joe Gibbs were running them back like he did back in the day, they would take the offensive lineman here. So, in homage to Joe Gibbs, we'll take Darnell Wright.
Darnell Wright sealed the deal right there. Moving on to 17, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Everybody watching from Pittsburgh is now throwing things at me because they really want Darnell Wright.
I like Darnell Wright a lot.
But now they've got the namesake.
They do.
JP Jr. is still out there. That's going to sell a lot of jerseys.
Imagine being their general manager, Omar Khan, and not taking Joey Porter Jr. when you just lost your best cornerback, Cam Sutton, to the Detroit Lions. Like, that's not a difficult choice. I know they need offensive line help. Like, they need multiple offensive line help. But they're in a division with Joe Burrow. They're in a division with Deshaun Watson, who you might not like off the field, but dude can throw. You're in a division that has maybe a Baltimore team that might actually start throwing the ball more now that they've given Lamar a little bit of help. You do have Odell Beckham Jr. on that team now for the 3.2 games before he tears something else. But, like, if you're building to win your division, you need a cornerback too. But
we've lost Chris. He's gone full wacky waving arm inflatable guy.
Yeah.
Big thanks to Pat D. You all are the dudes of Lions content. Who's hyped for Thursday night? FYI, whose head does Kirby rent space in now that Aaron has finally left? I think it's Jordan Love's head. That's where he'll just spend a lot of time. Pat, thank you so much for the super chat, brother. Appreciate you. Okay, so Joey Porter Jr., Michael, Do you want to mount a defense on this, or do you already have the jersey? And we're moving on.
No, I mean, they need
the
corner
fanatics.
help. They need tackle help. They need linebacker help. The other thing is 3 picks from now, Baltimore also needs corner help. And don't look too closely through their coaching staff because you'll find senior. So, I think Joey Porter Jr. makes a lot of sense.
All right. Lock it in, knock it down. We're going to move on to, you may have heard this team, Detroit Lions at 18. I guess the first question is, do we trade? Is there a trade at 18?
So who would you be trading? Who would you be trading to get? Is the first question you have to ask. Who's still on the board? So I'm just looking at
your pick a wide receiver.
No wide receivers have been taken yet.
Right. Your pick a wide
we
receiver.
still have Peter Skoronski. We still have, if you're in need of a tight end because we took Dalton Kincaid and you're not a believer in some of the other guys, Michael Mayer could be a commodity that some team might want to trade up for here. Deontay Banks. There's not a lot of maybe if you really want to get Hendon Hooker, like this would be, but I don't think any of those guys
still out there.
I don't think that any of those guys are people that anyone would really want to trade up for, unless you're Minnesota and you want to ensure that you're getting Hendon Hooker and you make another trade in the division. I don't know how popular that would be, but they certainly don't. They don't have any taboo about that. They're
just crazy enough to do it. They're just crazy enough to do it over there. I don't see a trade. I just wanted to put the option on the table here. Michael, I didn't want to poison the well, and I did. Damn it. Any thoughts on trades at 18?
No, I mean, I think if you had the opportunity, if one of the bigger names had dropped there, if Anthony Richardson were still on the board somehow, if Bijan Robinson was still on the board somehow, I think we're hearing leaks now that Brad Holmes would like to trade back because of course he would. More picks is better when you're already in the back half of the first round anyway. But yeah, I don't know. Given the way that this thing played out, there isn't that. I mean, unless you're getting all hyped up for Van Ness or something like that, and I don't see a team getting so hot and bothered that they give up other assets to come up and get a guy that likely is going to fall down the Plinko board to him anyway.
Let me float one team because Ryan Sturdivant, who's a member of the channel, thank you, Ryan, for joining. Would the Dolphins be an option? They're already getting Mr. Four Fight in the first round. They don't have anybody in the first round, and they're kind of like in that window. They're in the window. Do they take the capital and move up and get that difference maker that they're looking for? And this is a scenario I hadn't really considered too much.
So
I just laughed Miami out of the front.
51. So they could give you 51 next year's first, and they're going to have to get something else up too. That's not going to get you there.
Yeah,
that's a long way to move up. That's a long way to move. Like that's 33 picks. That's a full round.
They've got to feel like there's a guy there that's going to get them over the top, right? That's really what it is.
I don't think there's any one person that any team would move up for that. I agree with you on your assessment of Miami there. Like this is a team that probably thinks that their window is now, or they just have to keep up with what the Jets are doing and hope that Buffalo falters a little bit, which could happen.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's asking a lot from them. I actually think that if you're looking at 18 and you're looking at trade partner, I think Minnesota is probably the most likely one, and they would want to come up to get Hendon Hooker. Even though their general manager is, again, from where he came from, it's dangerous to assume that he will follow the same things. The Browns group, they don't draft people over 22, period. Like, if you're over 22, you're dead to them. And Hendon Hooker's 25. So that's a tough sell. That's one of the reasons why I don't actually think that they're going to take him, even if they're given the chance. So who are you trading up for here? And Deontay Banks could be. Maybe you feel like there's a big drop-off between him and the next year of cornerbacks, which is Julius Brents. Who the hell else is still out there? Emmanuel Forbes. They're the only Cam Smith, Clark Phillips, who's tiny. He's short, not small. That's maybe your best bet. But if you're the Lions, wouldn't you just take Deontay Banks then? Like, you need an outside corner. You got 2 of them under contract for beyond this year. Deontay Banks, a guy who talked in his combine interview, and I stood in front of him when he said it, I like to physically impose my will on the opposing receiver, and I like to watch them get uncomfortable. Like, does that not scream Dan Campbell?
And
like,
he gets a year. He gets a year of growth.
Is that not exactly what Aaron Glenn wants his outside cornerbacks to do? And one of the reasons why he got frustrated with Jeff Okudah, because Jeff Okudah was too passive. Like, you don't have to worry about Deontay Banks being passive. You don't have to worry about him. He might overreact and get burned from time to time. In my observation, that the Lions are okay with that. Like, because you're going to make some plays. They want the ball back more. I think Banks can go get the ball for you. I know he didn't do a lot in college, but some of that was that they asked him to play a little bit safer at Maryland than they did because they didn't have any safeties. Like, I can see the appeal here of Deontay Banks being the pick. I don't know that that's what we'll settle on, but I can make a strong argument for him. Let's put it that way.
The other thing about this is you have a 2 to 3 year, usually 3 year growth pattern for a cornerback, and you've got a couple of 1 year kind of sort of prove it deals at cornerback.
Right.
You give him a year to grow and learn and become what he can be. And you now have depth at a position where injuries always happen, most athletic position on the field and oft injured. I kind of like that pick. And again, Gray, I'm sorry for jumping in. I'm poisoning the well with my opinions, and I should shut up. So please talk and make me feel better about it.
I did a simulated draft a couple of days ago in the Slack. This is exactly what I came up with. I had Will Anderson at 6, Deontay Banks at 18. You put him in there with no pressure to have to be a starting CB1 or CB2, and some guys that are going to absolutely show him the ways of the force and how to prepare for games and how to get ready and all of that stuff. And then you've got a guy with some high athletic traits, and somebody you can turn loose next year when all of those guys get paid, because they're very likely, if they stay healthy, Mosley's going to get paid. Gardner Johnson's going to get paid. They're going to get paid. So,
well, after a Super Bowl for sure. Yeah, they're going to get picked up.
To me, he is a better version, a more athletic version of William Jackson, when he came out and was a first round pick for the Bengals. And before he A, went crazy, and B, got hurt, was a fantastic man cover corner. He's not anymore. That period didn't last very long, unfortunately, for them. But this guy is a better prospect than that. And if you want to watch good tape on him, watch what he did against Ohio State and all their NFL star receivers. He was really good.
All right.
He also did well against Penn State last year when Penn State had dudes. Good. And he wasn't as good then, by the way. Their other cornerback was actually better in 2021. And this is something that Chris, you and I talked about this at the Senior Bowl with Darnell Wright, in that he didn't blossom until later in his college career. He needed that time in college to become what he was going to be. I think Deontay Banks has hit that curve already. Like, a lot of times, one of the reasons why corners this high especially take some time to develop is because they're younger. They don't have the reps. He has the reps already. He's gotten through that already. So he's probably more ready to play than a lot of the other cornerbacks who might go earlier even, just because of that's where he's at in his career.
That's right. All right, we've got Deontay Banks to the Detroit Lions at 18. Said, done, and moving on. We go to 19. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where the Lightning, one of the more enjoyable teams to watch than the Red Wings these last couple of years, are playing. Lightning bolt struck my neighbor's palm tree in the backyard today at 5 o'clock on the dot. Snapped me out of a quick little brief nap I had going. And Lightning strikes in Amalie Arena. 4-1 over Toronto so far. So there we go. Let's talk about what the Tampa Bay football team is going to do, because they're not nearly as good as the Tampa Bay hockey team. Michael, where's your head at?
They still need a quarterback. They need offensive line help. They need a tight end. Is this a spot where Hendon Hooker makes sense?
He's better than. So they have Baker Mayfield on a 1-year contract, and then they have Kyle Trask. You should change.
Well, like I said, they need quarterback help.
Yep.
Baker and Sam Darnold are going to get frequent flyer miles year after year,
So
taking
I
1 year
will just say this for the
contracts.
record. I do think that Baker Mayfield could be the long-term answer, but I'm not going to not take a quarterback betting on that. I still like Baker. I do. But he's got a lot to prove.
Well, and you've been steadfast in that. I mean, it hasn't mattered where Baker was. You've given him a shot, whether it was Carolina in his short stint with the Rams. Frankly, I think if there was a way they could have kept him in L.A., that it would have behooved him to be there for one whole year, given where Stafford's at
Yeah.
and the likelihood that he's going to play all 17. I don't wish it on the guy at all, but I mean, the facts are the facts. That once your back starts to go, it's pretty tough to stay on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, going back to the Washington thing, this is another franchise I don't understand. Not really sure what they're doing. And, when in doubt, go offensive line because
they need
reasons.
that.
They need the help for sure.
Yeah.
They're very good at right tackle. Tristan Wirfs is arguably as good as Penei Sewell. Tampa fans will tell you he's better. I don't agree with that, but he's very good. Like they don't need a right tackle.
He's got fewer receptions.
They have Luke Gadecki was a second-round pick last year. He's one of their projected starting guards. Osiris Torrance makes sense here. Have we taken Skronski? We have not taken Skronski yet.
Still sitting there. Yeah, screaming Skronski.
That's an elephant in the room right there. We still haven't taken any wide receivers yet at all. That's interesting. I'm not saying that it's wrong, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
There's. I like John Michael Schmitz, the center from Minnesota, but I don't think he's going this early in the reality of things. But he would make a lot of sense too, because when their center went down last year, Brady went down. But it's early for that, based on what the league thinks. Tight end, they've loaded on tight ends over the years. Yeah, I think Skronski is probably the most likely pick here.
Skronski.
You guys agree?
Skronski. It's down here. I get to hear his name all the time. All right, we'll move on. Number 20, Seattle. The last hot pick before Miami gets forfeited. Well, let's go with the Seattle adopted native, Michael. What are you thinking?
Super easy.
Yep.
JSN. Jackson Smith and Jigba is still on the clock. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to seeing him in the huddle with DK Metcalf because it's going to look like a before and after picture, or like bring your kid to work day. Those two will be hilarious together. But Jackson Smith and Jigba.
I think he's over 30 now. He's been around a long time. I love that guy, by the way.
Yeah,
one of the draft ones I got right.
Yeah, tough as nails. So, that kid. Yeah, if JSN is on the again going back to Seattle's fascination with pass catchers. Even when they were a run-focused team. I mean, I was there from 13 to 15, those two Super Bowl years, and they were constantly trying to find the next best thing in the passing game. Give them the best wide receiver in the draft. Sure. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Argument.
I was there when he got punched in the face by the wide receiver they brought in from Minnesota too.
Riz, any argument on JSN?
That's who I was going to take.
All right. As we roll past 20 here, let me just do a quick recap. Carolina with quarterback Bryce Young. Houston takes Tyree Wilson. Tennessee, C.J. Stroud. Indianapolis, Will Levis. Jalen Carter goes to the Seattle Seahawks at 5. The Detroit Lions take Will Anderson Jr. Las Vegas picks up Christian Gonzalez. Bijan Robinson to Atlanta. Paris Johnson to Chicago. Nolan Smith to Philadelphia. Devon Witherspoon to Arizona. Anthony Richardson falls to 12 in Houston. Blows out my bet. Dalton Kincaid, Green Bay. Ryan Branch to New England. At number 15, Broderick Jones goes to the Jets. Darnell Wright then goes to Washington. Joey Porter Jr. goes to Pittsburgh. He can recycle your jersey. Deontay Banks to Detroit, cornerback in waiting. Peter Skronski goes to Tampa. And Jackson Smith and Jigba goes to Seattle at number 20. At 21, Miami Dolphins. They go on a boat ride. And we move on to 22 to the Chargers. Riz, why don't you take us through the Chargers thinking here?
Good question. So
I thought he froze again.
Yeah, I did too. That was another good shot, though, if I had it frozen.
I mean, tight end Michael Mayer makes sense. Their pass catchers are getting older, so a wide receiver here, whether it's Zay Flowers, Josh Downs, Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston, although I think he's pretty redundant with what they've got. They might want to do some variety there. Remember, this is a team, they got rid of Joe Lombardi this offseason. They're changing their offense to something that might actually work. So they probably need playmakers. It sounds like Austin Eckler could be traded this weekend. He wants out. They're okay behind him, but they could use, like, if Jahmyr Gibbs is like supercharged Austin Eckler. So if they want to go, apples to apples trade out, Jahmyr Gibbs is great. He makes sense. You never have too many offensive linemen, although they've drafted a lot of them, and they generally do a pretty good job with them too. But you can't tell me that, like, Osiris Torrance is better. He's better than Trey Pipkins. He certainly makes sense. What other offensive linemen are left too? Tackle. I mean, Kalijah Cansey might enter the picture here. I think this is probably as early as he would go. But this is a team that has not shied away from being aggressive with that sort of position. Keon White, maybe, probably early than most fans want him to be. But I will tell you, he was invited to Kansas City for a reason. And I will say this, knowing it's not going to happen. It would not shock me if the Lions had a lot of interest in Keon White at 18, because he is John Kaminsky with a lot more athleticism, and Kaminsky's pretty athletic, and it wouldn't stun me there. Lucas Van Ness, by the way, is still on the board here.
Yeah,
he's not one of their top three, but maybe you're planning for life after Bosa or something like that. Maybe that's the thought that enters their mind. I don't know. He certainly sticks out like a sore thumb as somebody who I thought would be gone by now, and we probably haven't considered him enough. I think the Lions will absolutely consider him at 18, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if he is the pick over Deonte Banks at 18. Although in this one, Will Anderson was taken, so that went off the board. But if they're taking Witherspoon at 6, which I do think is going to happen, if Anderson isn't the pick, then I think Lucas Van Ness at 18 is a very incredibly realistic possibility. So he's certainly got to be considered here too, even though they don't necessarily need him right away. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, Van Ness, Brise, and Miles Murphy. They're all still available. They all fit a need. He's still out there. They need edge help. They need DT help. Again, with
they do.
Brise. I've heard his name pronounced like 7 different ways, and I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know which one's right. But Miles Murphy is one of those guys that gives you an athletic edge and somebody with some upside, depending on what they're looking at. But
I interviewed Breezy. I still don't know how to say his name.
Oh my god,
that's sad. That's my bad.
And I can't get past just from an offensive perspective, and never ever doubt the irrationality of a panicky coach, but you ought to have one with this Chargers team, which finds new and interesting ways to not contend despite having Herbert in his rookie window and all of the maneuverability that they've had. I can't get over the thought of Jahmyr Gibbs as a weapon in that pass game almost as much as the run game. That kid could change some things. If they get away from core needs and they do what Brad Holmes said he was going to do, which was don't bring the depth chart to the draft room, whoo, Gibbs could look pretty good in those powder blues.
Those uniforms are sweet too, by the way.
Yeah, they're the best part of the team every year. I mean, I still remember, I'm an old man. I still remember when they had the number 1 ranked offense and the number 1 ranked defense in the same year and finished 8-8. It's impossible.
Yes.
It's impossible. How do you do that?
Because their kicker missed 4 potential game-winning kicks.
Oh, man. So, yeah, Gibbs was the name that jumped off to me, but that's just me playing fantasy football and trying to be a wizard. That sounds fun. That's some video game stuff. Otherwise, I think you look at one of those defensive linemen that are still on the board. Van Ness would make a lot of sense too.
Yeah, Brissy makes a lot of sense too. I don't know. What do you think, Chris? We're going to lean on you here.
Yeah, I feel like Van Ness. You get the edges. Similar thinking then as to why we went with Will Anderson, right? You got just the most destructive defensive line at your disposal now, and hopefully your new offensive coordinator can help you score a few points.
He's not on my first. This is my rankings. This isn't how I expect things to go. He's on my second page.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Van Ness would make a nice dollar store Bosa, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you put him in on that line, give them something else to think about.
My high end comparison for him is Connor Barwin. My low end is Porter Gustin. That's who he reminds me of.
You made up that second name.
All right, Van Ness is locked in. We're moving on.
Porter Gustin looks like if Zach Wilde lifted weights nonstop.
Porter Gustin sounds like a privateer from the 1700s.
Privateer. Oh my god.
Civil War general or something.
We've talked about gout and privateers in this podcast.
Yeah. Like I said, you're not getting this stuff other places. Go ahead, pay for the Athletic. See if I care. They're just going to bore you to tears with a bunch of stats.
Oh man, or you can get bypass paywalls free, and anyway. Check it out at GitHub.
Oh, come on now.
It gets you all of them.
You just got another 15,000 people laid off at AOL.
You've got mail. All right, let's get into
Too bad you don't have a job.
Baltimore Ravens are up at number 23. Bring some sanity to this, Riz. Well, there went that idea.
Yeah. I would love for them to get another wide receiver for Lamar Jackson, presuming they actually want to play Lamar Jackson. Because, again, and I've said this several times on a bunch of different shows, they have done him so dirty by giving him the tiniest receiving core or crappiest receiving core outside of tight end Mark Andrews, who's fantastic. Like, they have a new offensive coordinator. Maybe they turn over a new leaf. Maybe they go for Quentin Johnston. I think he needs to be in the conversation here. But they always draft well in the defensive backfield. They got Kyle Hamilton last year, and everybody was like, oh, he sucks after 5 games. Well, by the end of the season, he was one of the 3 best safeties in football already. People forgot about that because he got off such a bad start. Don't make that mistake again. Deonte Banks is gone, but, you're looking at the next tier of corners, did they take Brent's here? Would they take Emmanuel Forbes, who's going to take the ball away? The NCAA's all-time leader in pick sixes, even though he weighs 166 pounds on a good day. That's the kind of guy that they do. This is also a spot where somebody might trade too. Presuming they want to get in front of Minnesota with the presumption that maybe Minnesota might take Hendon Hooker. If you want Hendon Hooker, this is your window to trade up and get him. And I don't know who that would be. I'm just throwing that out there.
It'd be somebody in the second round. It's none of the teams remaining on the board in the first round.
New Orleans.
They're not going to be looking for a quarter. They just signed Derek Carr.
I know.
We keep forgetting.
All right, I've got a name in there. Michael, what are you thinking? What are you thinking for?
I think a wide receiver obviously is something that they've needed. The problem is, if you look at what's there, Zay Flowers, a good player, 5'10". Jordan Addison, good player, 5'11". Hyatt, the kid from Tennessee, he's 6 foot. There isn't a guy. I mean, there isn't that guy like the kid from USC last year that was 6'5", can go up and be that big body. I think Zay Flowers is an interesting player. Jordan Addison's another guy. They both fit a role. Depending on what you believe Odell Beckham Jr. is. Can he be the X? You know, can he be wide receiver 1? So they can come in and be wide receiver 2, because it seems like everybody that's available on the board right now at wide receiver is a wide receiver 2 at best.
I would agree with that.
I have Quentin Johnson penciled in there over Zay Flowers, who would be my next.
Yeah. Flowers is interesting because he's 5'10", and he's an outside receiver. And like, he was very quick to point out that he was an outside receiver at the combine. When people were asking him about the slide, he's like, I played 75% of my snaps outside. I was really good there. Don't move me because I'm short, was the not so subtle message that he was saying. So yeah, Johnson I don't know where the NFL's at on Johnson. And again, I'm a managing editor for a draft website, and we don't know how the NFL thinks about him. So that's, again, we're throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing which one falls off last.
He wore purple and he drops a lot of passes, so he's a Raven.
There you go. Quentin Johnson it is. Moving on. The Minnesota.
When was the last? Not a lot of guys get better at that 12% drop rate at TCU. Yeesh.
All right, let's go to 24.
There are people who want to draft a tight end who has a 22% drop rate.
Well,
and by the way, missed a year for injuries.
When your pick number matches your drop rate, you know. All right, let's.
Chris and I watched him drop passes left and right in Mobile too.
Yeah. Minnesota's on the clock at 24. Michael, you've got the clipboard. You get to run up early. Who you picking in Minnesota?
Well, they got saved because Hendon Hooker fell right into their lap. So they get a guy Kirk Cousins' age to replace Kirk Cousins when he's at the end of the year, and they don't want to pay him.
They put the pressure.
Yeah. Kirk Cousins come back home here to Holland and become a congressman.
Probably could.
Yeah.
Probably could.
He's got to throw a couple games the Lions' way, and I think he has that on lockdown.
So just to throw out some other names that are still on the board here that should be considered. Keon White, Kalijah Cansey is there. Will McDonald is here. He's also old, but a very good pass rusher still on the board. If they're looking offensive line, Osiris Torrance, Minnesota's own John Michael Schmitz is still on the board. Excuse me. Steve Avila is still out there. I think this is very early for him. Forbes is there. If they want to get wide receiver funky, you got Addison, the guys we just talked about. Addison's there. Not Johnston, but Flowers is there. Darnell Washington at tight end. This is probably early for him, but it's probably where teams will start thinking about him. So those are some of the options that are still there that make sense. Let me think of who I have dogged. Brian Brissy is still there. He's probably got to be in the conversation here. I'm looking down further. That's probably about it, honestly. That's sort of your player pool that we're choosing from for the next 2-3 picks here.
Yeah.
Did we take Miles Murphy?
Not yet.
He makes a lot of sense for Minnesota. A lot of sense.
I think he makes more sense at the next pick.
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that at all. So if we want to stack that, we can make 2 picks here.
All right.
So Hooker.
We got.
I think he fell right to him, right?
Okay. Yeah. I don't disagree with that. Hooker, 22. Where's he at here?
I've got them both. Both picks are in.
Right.
Hendon Hooker to Minnesota at 24. 24. We're leaving 21 there with Miami as forfeited.
Yeah.
So it's the 23rd player taken, 24th draft pick. 25, 25th draft pick. Jacksonville takes Miles Murphy.
Yeah.
Done?
I think they need I've got them down as needing cornerback help, edge help, pass rush. You put him in there, let him work with Trayvon Walker.
Josh Allen is entering the last year of his contract and he's been fine.
Yep.
But he hasn't been number
Right.
7 overall final.
He's not what we thought he was going to be, Riz. We were both super high on
I
him.
love the guy. I really did.
Oh, man. Glad that didn't work out the way we wanted it to. All right.
It's fair. I really thought he was going to be great. I did. And he's good.
Yeah.
Like he's a good starter, but he's your number 2 pass rusher on a good team.
Yep.
Yes.
All right. 26 New York Giants, the New York Football Giants. I feel like they don't need to even think about wide receiver, which is actually puts them as one of the people that maybe would have traded up earlier because they're just in the market for the next Kenny Galladay. I'll never ever forget. I have a friend who's a Giants fan. I will never ever forget them signing Kenny Galladay for that much money to catch so few passes. God, that had a sting. That had a sting. All right.
Good times.
What do we got here? What do we got for the New York Giants, Mr. Risdon?
So, this is an area where Breezy makes sense. Emmanuel Forbes makes sense. They need an off-ball linebacker really badly because Jared Davis is a starter.
Yeah.
That's aggravating my doubt.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I went. So in the Kalijah Cansey makes sense here. Steve Avila makes sense. Will McDonald. They just took Thibodeau, so they're probably good there. They still have the older Ojulari. Yeah, I like Jack Campbell here. It's probably earlier than what he's going to go.
More than Kalijah Cansey.
Again, Cansey.
I know what you think about Cansey, right? I know what you think.
So this is my theory. I personally don't think he's worth the first round, but my theory from talking to people around the league about him is that early on he's only going to play on third down and obvious passing situations. I don't think the team's taking that in the first round because I just don't. But he could, because he could be that impactful for your pass rush. As a situational pass rusher, he certainly makes a lot of sense. He's very good at that. He's very crafty at doing that. So their coach isn't an unpredictable one because he's young.
Yeah.
But I kind of think that they would go linebacker here.
Okay.
Again, look at the division that they're in.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
Washington. Yeah. Washington has a good run game. The Eagles, like, you got to have somebody that can stop Jalen Hurts and stop Kenneth Gainwell, and do those things and cover a tight end. They have a very good tight end there. Like, you got Dallas. Dak Prescott can get outside, can move around a little bit. They love to throw their tight ends. They need a tight end. We might address that next. But their options, Tony Pollard, if he comes back from his broken leg, it looks like Zeke Elliott's going to be back. Like, you got to be able to win your division. You got to be able to win the middle of the field. Right now, the New York Giants cannot win the middle of the field on defense. And as much as I do not like valuing a linebacker this high, they might need it to be the team that they want to be.
Yeah.
Because I think most of us think they were probably a little bit of a fluke last year.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to sustain that flukedom, what do? You do it by getting better where your division is. I think that makes some sense. I could be crazy too.
Michael, have you been convinced that Jack Campbell's the guy?
Yeah, I mean, they do. They've got needs at linebacker. Maybe the only team that has more needs at linebacker is Buffalo. So that makes a lot of sense. The other guy, and Jeff already mentioned it, was Emmanuel Forbes, because they need help at corner, and he's still on the board. But yeah, I mean, Iowa backers going to be solid. Going to get in there, do all the blue collar stuff, and he's going to get some really, really good coaching there with the Giants. That makes perfect sense. I can sign off on that.
Signed, sealed, and delivered. Jack Campbell, inside linebacker to New York Giants. You have Dallas, who's missing, sadly, Dalton Schultz, crying in their tea, in their salted, oh God, what was it? Popeyes? What was it that Jerry was eating on Hard Knocks that he was putting salt on his eggs or something, whatever. Either way, Dallas is up. Dallas has the pick. Michael, what do you think?
Michael Mayer makes a lot of sense to me here. They need tight end help. He's there kind of in an all do it all, can block in the run game, which they're going to need plenty of. The running backs are off the board. So I think unless they went, we still have Jahmyr Gibbs on the board, right?
Yeah.
We do.
He's the only other one that might make some sense. Tony Pollard's hurt and Zeke is gone. So if it's not tight end, running back would make some sense there.
Yeah.
So
they could look at pass rush here. Like I like Will McDonald. Makes sense. Brissy is still here. However you want to say his name. Kansas still here. They like their cornerbacks who can take the ball back. That automatically inserts Forbes into the equation. They tend to like their physical freaks. That's sort of one of Jerry's things. He likes to get his freak on. Osiris Torrance makes sense here as a Craig's like, why am I here?
did not need that, man. I'd rather picture your gout.
I wouldn't. Still trying to figure out why he had 2 dryers in his living room on his yacht in the COVID draft. Whatever. I do that much laundry when you go through that many sheets. Kansas is certainly the sizzle type of player that they take. This is not a team that goes conservative in the first round. They're going to go splash. And Gibbs would be splashy. Mayer, we probably undersell how good he is because we don't. Well, I think we subliminally downgrade all the tight ends because we don't want the Lions to have any interest in a first round tight end.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm guilty of that. I don't know, man. Like this is a tough one. This is legitimately hard. Chris, where are you at?
I think tight end is a need for him. I do. Dak relies on his tight ends. That offense relies on his tight ends. I feel like that's a smart pick, a simple pick.
Would they take Darnell Washington as the sizzle pick? Just throwing it out there. I don't know.
I don't think so.
Because if you're looking to get your freak on, he's the freak. Do you bleed the freak? There's a Seattle reference for you, Gray.
I think he's keeping
Lane
his freak
Staley.
on a leash this time.
Named after him.
Really? Jump
I think
from
he's
Jerry
keeping-
Cantrell to Jonathan Davis. All right, fair enough.
I'm going with Michael Mayer.
Yep.
Okay.
Go with
Makes
Michael
sense.
Gray.
Plausible. Certainly plausible.
All right, we move on to Buffalo now. 28. We're feeling it.
Boy, they need. Yeah, I mean, they lost their entire linebacking core, right? They need help there.
They still
but
have
I don't
Milano.
see a guy there.
That might make some good cookie, by the way.
And the best ship from the Guardians of the Galaxy series, by the way, the Milano. I mean, they got to get a wide receiver, right? One of these little guys that's still that's still on the board. Is it Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers? They're both still on the board.
Yes, they are.
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
that feels a little bit like a
if
coin
you're looking
flip
to maximize your rookie quarterback window or whatever Josh Allen's in, if you want to maximize Josh Allen, you need to get him better.
Well, he can't be running anymore. They've already said that he can't be the run game. They got to get guys to throw to. Not named Diggs. So he needs more targets. I don't know how you go about deciding which one of those guys you want, but one of those two. Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison.
Yeah. Riz, which one? Zay Flowers or Jordan Addison for you if you're the Buffalo Bills?
I'm taking Addison because I like the fact that he did it at 2 different colleges in different offensive schemes. That makes him feel safer to me.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense.
All right.
Where's
he at?
Get that here.
Bloody hell, where's he at?
Oops. Here we go. All right, we got Jordan Addison here. Sorry, I'm doing some production stuff. Who's gone?
Okay.
Good. We all good?
Where are we at now?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We move on now. Sorry, I was producing. Move on to
That's okay.
Cincinnati, the Bengals. They have the
Elijah
29th
Cansey.
pick.
Elijah Cansey. No discussion needed.
Yeah.
I'm weirdly confident that this is their pick. Like, weirdly confident.
Michael, any discussion?
No, I'm not going to argue with Riz when he's feeling himself like this.
Yeah. He's got his fingers all over that gout.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to number 30, the New Orleans Saints. Got to run over that big old toe with that suitcase behind him.
All right, so Saints, we're looking at Ryan Breesy is still on the board. Will McDonald's still on the board. Osiris Torrance is still on the board. Did we not take Jahmyr Gibbs? We didn't. He's still out there.
Yep.
Blah, blah, blah. What other guys go in the first potentially? Cam Smith is still there. Julius Brents is going to be up there. Emmanuel Forbes. Keon White is certainly in play here. He makes a lot of sense as a guy who could take over for, assuming that Cam Jordan ever falls off. I'm not sure that he ever will. He could be a successor for that. Yeah, I think that's our player pool here.
Yeah, Adam
Maybe John
Warrior.
Michael. No, they have Steve Ruiz, who's a pretty good center, so I don't think they need Michael Schmitz there.
Adetomiwa Adebawore, is that who you're talking about, Michael?
Yeah, Adebawore is. I can do his last name. The first name I got no shot. But he's another guy that I don't know.
They call him Ade,
he
and that seems to work pretty well.
Right.
Yeah, he's got to be in play too. I agree.
You know, they've got a need at DT. Mozzie Smith might be another guy to take a look at in the middle of that defensive line. Run stuffer, guy that's going to eat space and insanely freakishly athletic. Mozzie Smith's got some nutso numbers. I admittedly watch a lot of Michigan football, but when he did 22 reps on the bench, but he did it with 335 instead of 225.
Yeah.
Nuts.
Grand Rapids
and then set the record on the plyo stairs. Yeah. Woo.
Yeah.
Big kid.
The thing is, he had 0.5 sacks at Michigan. Not to divert back to the Lions, but real fast. The Lions value production a lot. He didn't have the production, so I don't think they're interested in Mozzie Smith.
I'll be very curious. There's a couple. I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to pick your brains about this because there's the thing with Michigan, and you look at a guy like Rashawn Gary as an example who goes to Green Bay. Those interior defensive linemen at Michigan don't get the big splashy numbers the defensive ends do. The linebackers do. The safeties do. It's the design of the defense.
Yeah.
I wonder how long it's going to take for the league to because Rashawn Gary looks pretty good. And he didn't have the kind of production he had as a number one high school recruit, made that class for Michigan. And then the other question
Michigan fans being largely disappointed with him.
Yeah. Because he got put in the middle of that defense, and the middle of that defense has a different job. You know this from watching tape. What are they being asked to do? Because how they produce is directly related to what they're being asked to do. If he's doing his job and he's a freak athlete, well, then maybe he can do a different job and be a freak athlete. And that's my question about these Georgia kids too. As we get at this second draft cycle, as we work through all of these defensive players from Georgia, find out how many of them are the product of a system that's got like 35 dudes in it and just rolling out 5-star talent everywhere and none of them necessarily having to stand out. I wonder about how that'll look 2-3 years from this draft when a lot of them are in the league. That
it's
has nothing to do with any of this.
Because we have that conversation about Clemson people a lot and how Clemson, most of their players wind up being okay, but they're never as good as you thought they'd be.
Yep.
And
not the guy.
Yeah. Like, and right now we're talking about Miles Murphy's gone, but Brian Bressee's still here.
Right.
KJ Henry, who I think is a pretty good player, is like a 3rd-round pick, but like, do you trust these guys? Because there's so many guys that have gone through there. We just had one, Austin Bryant.
Yep.
He was a little bit lower expectations and had injury issues, but like, this is a guy, he was a dude at Clemson.
Yeah. And when he
was healthy.
And when he flashed, he really flashed. So
yeah.
All right, boys.
No, I think having said all that, I think they take the Clemson kid. Brzee probably makes a lot of sense.
I buy that. I think he's going to go this high. I think he answered a lot of the off-field questions from what I've gathered from combine recon and things like that. I think he's going to get somewhat of a pass for the situation that he went through last year with his sister passing away.
Yes,
and also getting a very weird virus that felled him for a while. But you do have to watch out for the injuries, and I will bring this up, and this is why I am lower on Breezy, and this is my personal take. I don't know that the Lions or any other team share this opinion, and I shared this story in the Slack. When I was learning how to do this job, I was mentored by a longtime NFL scout, and he said, always be wary of the guys who were super high recruits that don't produce in college because they probably peaked early as athletes. And I have embraced that as one of my draft pillars. And he is a guy, he was the number one recruit in the country. And other than about 3 games at Clemson, never looked like it. Yep. And I wonder if he just was physically mature earlier than everybody else was. And that's why he was great. And I hold that against him probably more than I should. I'll admit to that, but I think there's something there too.
You should see what I'm about to hold against you, Riz.
Plausible to go in this range. Absolutely.
You should see what I'm about to hold against you. But we'll go on to number 31. The Philadelphia Eagles are up with a pick. And Michael, the Nasty Boys in Philadelphia, what do you think? Where are they going?
Well, right now I'm trying to remember if we gave Jahmyr Gibbs to anybody. Did we do that? Did he go to Dallas, or did we go Michael Mayer?
We went to Michael Mayer.
All right, yeah. If Gibbs is that you send him to Philly.
Gibbs.
I think if he's on the board, I think you send him to Philly.
Riz, you down with Gibbs?
That. He should be.
All right.
He's certainly worthy. He is the best player on my. Well, I take that back. Osiris Torrance is the number 1 player on my board, still available, but my board is not what their board is. But Jahmyr Gibbs is number 2 because he's number 14 overall.
All right.
Yeah, do it.
Lock it in.
Okay.
Down to the last pick of the first round, Kansas City Chiefs. First, got to say thank you to Steve Shattuck. Have to say before it's over, I've watched way too many mock drafts and have not enjoyed one as much as yours. Question. Thank you very much, Steve. It's the gout talk. It really is. The gout is the secret.
100%. Yeah.
Question. Lions draft wide receiver.
We've got time to work in some sciatica, some other things. Joint pain.
Allopurinol is your friend.
Mesothelioma.
Osteoarthritis.
We're going to turn into a law firm over here. All right. Yay or nay to the Lions draft a wide receiver, Riz? You first.
No, they're not drafting a wide receiver in the first round.
At all? First 3?
They might take one later. I think so. Obviously, the reference here is what happened with J-Mo.
Yep.
I don't think J-Mo changes their draft. He's gone 6 weeks. They can plug Khalif Raymond in there for 6 weeks. Khalif was quietly better than I think most people thought he was. He's just really tiny.
Yeah.
I think he's got a 28-inch waist, but he can fly down the field. He can stretch the field. He proved that he can catch the ball down the field too. Mm-hmm. And they brought in Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones is a perfect veteran placeholder. He's not a long-term guy.
Yep.
I don't think that it changed their draft plans much, if at all. Maybe it makes them more likely to take a guy later, take him in the 5th instead of the 6th. Maybe. I think that's where the draft impact of what happened with J-Mo being a dumbass is.
Mm-hmm. And there's some talk about our J-Mo take last week, and then the news broke right after. As you know, Riz, inside the building, there's been talk about him, and I was surprised that Holmes let it come out at the combine, and I think that was his kind of not so subtle way to try to poke the tiger to get him to do the things that they need him to do, to work. Yeah. Because there's all kinds of people talking about it, right? Oh, what has he done? What hasn't he done? I'm telling you, inside, there's concern. And he hasn't done anything really to allay the concern, which, again, when I think about Jalen Carter, maybe a great player, but the idea that he's not super into football, how he showed up to his pro day, those are all key indicators. You're not helping yourself at all. And when you don't tend to help yourself, it tends to be a directional kind of thing. It becomes a personality piece. So I want J-Mo to work out as much as anybody who is a fan of the Detroit Lions. But beyond what we see, there's other things that people are concerned about that are really close to him. And I'm just, you want to see a guy like this do the things to turn that around, because if you don't care enough to change the perception of you, then how much do you really care about what it is that you're doing? And I'll just leave it at that. Michael, Kansas City. Oh, I got to ask you first. Wide receiver, yes or no?
Not in the first round, no.
Yeah. Okay.
No, nothing short of an alien abduction of that entire room would cause them to pick a wide receiver in the first round that I can imagine.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment.
It would be different news on draft night.
All right, you're
in which case we have bigger problems. Like Mars attacks.
You're sitting in the Kansas City draft room, Michael. Smells of cheeseburgers. Who is it that you're picking at number 32 overall?
I look down at my hemp bracelet that said, "What would Risdon do?" And I take Osiris. I take the guard. Even though drafting a guard in the first round, it's like going on a blind date with somebody with a good personality or getting socks for Christmas. It's going to keep you warm and probably take care of you. It's the sensible thing. It's just lacks all sex appeal.
Getting socks for Christmas. I love socks.
Of course you do.
I ask for socks every year. Big man socks.
Well, it's because of your gout.
You're the world's youngest old man. For God's sakes. Somebody get Risdon a rocking chair so they can enjoy sunsets. Yeah, I think
that'd be nice too, actually. I love
that. I think Osiris Torrance makes a lot of sense in Kansas City. Put somebody in the middle of that line, make life easier for Patrick Mahomes.
Cushy socks, gout goy. Do you agree?
They did just lose Andrew Wiley too.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. He's in Washington, I want to say. Maybe Carolina. One of them. I don't know. The Ron Rivera tree, somewhere on the Ron Rivera Trail of Tears. I do like Will McDonald here. I do like John Michael Schmitz as a center. Makes some sense here. Keon White got invited to the draft. We haven't taken him. He's a guy that fits their profile. They don't have Frank Clark anymore, so I think that's why I'm subconsciously leaning towards McDonald. But then also Emmanuel Forbes is still out there. Cansey's still out there. Julius Brents, who's a physical freak at cornerback, is out there. He's local too. I'm trying to think who else would be in. Mozzie Smith, possibly. This is a team that has taken physical freaks. This is a team that took Tyreek Hill, after all. Frank Clark, by the way, was a physical freak in his own right, too. Bracey's still there. DJ Turner, the fastest guy in the draft, is there. Or fastest defensive player, I should say. Keely Ringo, I don't think the NFL likes him as much as Georgia fans do. That's probably where we're at with the player pool. I certainly could make a good argument for Osiris Torrance. He's my best player left, so I'm not going to hate it. But I do want to throw out the defense should be considered here too.
Too late. We already picked Osiris. We already picked OCT.
There you go.
Have a cheeseburger. Help the gout. All right, here we go. Let's walk through this draft really quick, and we'll kind of recap what we have. Bryce Young to Carolina, Tyree Wilson to Houston, C.J. Stroud to Tennessee, Will Levis to Indianapolis, Jalen Carter to Seattle, Will Anderson to Detroit Lions, Christian Gonzalez to the Raiders, Bijan Robinson to Atlanta, Paris Johnson to Chicago, Nolan Smith to Philadelphia, Devon Witherspoon heads on over to Arizona, get some sun, Anthony Richardson to Houston, get some hate, Dalton Kincaid goes to Green Bay, Brian Branch to New England, Broderick Jones to the Jets, Darnell Wright to Washington, Joey Porter Jr. to Pittsburgh, Deontay Banks out to Detroit to spend some good time, Skronsky to Tampa, JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba goes to Seattle. Lucas Van Ness to the Chargers. Quentin Johnson to Baltimore. Hendon Hooker to Minnesota. Miles Murphy to Jacksonville. Jack Campbell sees his way to the Giants. Michael Mayer to Dallas. Jordan Addison to Buffalo. Kalijah Cansey to Cincinnati. Brian Bresee to New Orleans. Jahmyr Gibbs to Philadelphia. And CT Osiris Torrance to Kansas City Chiefs. Woof. That's a big one. It's a big draft. We did some thinking.
So we need to have this list on hand for Thursday to find out how stupid we all are.
I don't think we need the list to show that. My God.
What's the over under for number of picks here that we got right? I'm going to go 3.5.
I was just going to say 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm in the same. I'm the same side. It's wacky. We've said it at the beginning. We said it throughout. This is a crazy draft, and it's crazy. The wide receiver is the position is the one that blows my mind the most. Just I don't want to knock on any of the guys, but just the talent pool is not nearly as deep. It's like a West Virginia gene pool. It's just it's nothing. And I mean, I'd like to see some more talent in that space, but the Lions in particular make it difficult because look, if you can't tell what the Lions are doing well, generally you have a much better sense than I feel like we do this year in the NFL, and it's absolutely blindfolding a blind man and spinning him on a bat and saying go. I don't know what to even think. This is going to be a crazy year. A lot of fun though on Thursday as we cover the draft. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it will be fun.
My sleepless night because I have to work through it. That's what I want to do. I am very excited about it. Chris, you know this about me. Saturday is my favorite day of the year.
Yeah,
I love day 3 of the NFL draft. I absolutely love it.
Me too. That's the day that we've done 2 shows.
You learn who has actually watched players and who is like regurgitating names. And I actually watched the players, so I feel pretty good about that.
I like day 3 because we've done 2 days of shows, and I finally can sit on the couch with my hand in my pants and my beer in a hand and my other hand and just watch it and like take it in without doing all the stuff. It's I love the draft, right? But that day 3 is just a nice chill kind of.
Yeah. So I will say, because I'm not able to participate in the draft shows, I will do a video recap of my thoughts on the draft that you'll get Sunday.
Love it.
It'll post on Sunday because Chris will have it on Sunday.
That's how we go. Michael, we can talk about whatever we want to do. It's like there's no shortage of Michael Gray on the channel. Loving it. A lot of great stuff. Check it out. I was going to
say you'd be real sick of me by the end of the week because I got to be back here on Thursday for the first round. So
good times. All right. Well, we appreciate both of you gentlemen here for the draft. We've got it rolling on the bottom. You can check that out as we go. Also, don't forget DetroitLionsPodcast.com/store. Get yourself some of the sweetest FTP shirts. Look at that. The knife through the cheese. Oh, just looking good. And of course, the winner of the naming contest for the offensive line, Hank's Tanks. Got a great look there of Hank's Tanks, the best offensive line in the NFL. Head on over, take care of that. Michael, Riz, I want to thank you both very much for doing this. I know it's a little long to go through and do and think through and do all the research for this, but appreciate you guys. This was a really great mock draft. I love it.
That's fun.
I love where we wound up.
Also, I learned about gout. Turns out it's due to an increase in uric acid. I had no idea. I was Googling it the entire time.
Yes. So the doctor will give you an option. You can either stop drinking beer or take a pill. Give me the freaking pill, doc.
All right. Don't forget us on Patreon, patreon.com/Detroit Lions podcast, patreon.com/Detroit Lions podcast. $5 a month gets you access to the Slack, and soon another tier will get you the ad-free podcast on audio, if that's what you're looking for. Stay tuned. We'll talk about that shortly. Also follow us on Twitter at the Michael Gray, at Jeff Risdon, and at DET Lions podcast. All 3 of us pants free 24/7 on Twitter. It's the place to be. Give us a call via Skype, Detroit Lions Podcast, all one word, or use your regular old phone and call us in the Lions line at 248-782-8384. It's 248-RUB-UFUG. Because what else would you be dialing if you want to talk to us? Be sure to go to DetroitLionsPodcast.com, subscribe to the podcast. What happens when they do that, Riz?
I get to come into your ears automatically.
That's right. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time on the Detroit Lions podcast. Remember, no pants, no toasters, no hot tubs, no problems. And Popeye didn't have gout because we're your Detroit Lions and Reddit connection.